What's up, everybody? Welcome to our live stream here on lichess via Twitch. I'm International Master William Paschall, aka Sludgy, chess player, poker player, baseball bat salesman. We value your privacy. Accept cookies. I'm trying to accept cookies. Twitch. If you'd stop getting hacked, it would be easier. Alright. There was a big Twitch hack. So, I had to reset some things. Benjamin Franklin. Ashby, thank you for sharing the quotes. Welcome to the stream, everybody. Good that we're up and live. It's good to be up and live. Good to be alive. Mr. Coffee's in the house. Masturbate. Paraphrasing my quote. My Roman quote. Alright. Benjamin Franklin. Yabatis has the first game submitted. He's not here tonight, by the way. Welcome, Mr. Coffee. Welcome, Masturbate. Welcome, everyone, to my stream. We're doing in-depth analysis. It's Thursday subscriber analysis stream. So I do welcome game submissions from the subscribers to the channel, to the Twitch channel. And we're going to get started here in a moment as I dust off the yes and no buttons. That's my favorite one. Reminds you of Mr. Coffee. All right. Sir. I hate it when people call me sir. All right. But I hate when they call me bro too. I don't know what I like. Your Honor. I want them to call me Your Honor. That sounds cool. I'll go with Your Honor. Forget the sir and the bro, you know? It just doesn't sound cool. Your Highness or Your Honor? That's alright. Sir is so plebonic. Alright, we got Yabatis playing black. Thanks, Mr. Coffee. The honorable mention. Yeah, every title chess player should get, like, the honorable. Those who don't cheat, of course, because they're not honorable. This was funny. Yabatis randomly submitted a game against this guy, isoamyl acetate. Don't remember now. Mr. Coffee, maybe you remember what his handle is on Twitch, but he was a subscriber too. I've seen him just recently. But, like, Yabatis was completely oblivious to this fact. You know, he randomly chose a game he won in, like, the 10-minute pool, which just happens to be against another player who was a subscriber to my stream previously. No, I mean, I know Yabatis' handle. Smack. Alright, Mr. Coffee's still at work. We can't expect him to be too sharp. I know his handle, man. I'm talking about the other guy. Yeah. I don't remember isoamyl's. He was kind of trolly sometimes. Snuggles the Snail, what's up? Alright. We've actually done isoamyl's games in the subscriber stream before on a couple of occasions. They're always really good names. Snuggles the Snail, what's up with you? Welcome to the stream. Thanks for being a viewer and for being a subscriber. Thanks to all of you guys for subscribing. I appreciate it. Guys and girls. Whatever sex of snail you are. It doesn't matter. Everyone's welcome here. C4, knight c6. This is kind of a cool way of playing against the English. You got to be willing to play the Mexican defense or whatever. But that's part of Yabatis' move order. So, I mean, I would expect like most English players to play knight c3 now. They could transpose to d4. That's about it. Knight f3. But he plays g3, typical English opening move. Now black plays f5. So it's a Anglican Dutch. Sounds like some kind of early Western Christianity. It's an early Anglican Dutch. What is this called? Do I have to turn on the analysis engine? That's still not going to give me an opening. Oh yeah, Anglo-Lithuanian. This is crazy now. The Anglo-Lithuanian? Get out of here. Okay, Mykonos is the... So the Mykonos defense is like d4, knight c6. And he was Lithuanian. So the big deep concept here is that c4, knight c6, g3, f5 is the Anglo-Lithuanian variation. Wow, that's hard to believe. The Anglo-Lithuanian variation is a thing. I'm sorry, but I mean, I don't believe that. That's just too random. Alright, I don't think this has a name, but whatever. Bishop g2, knight f6. Oh, there was something else I was thinking. I was thinking about a different game, actually. Alright. Knight f6, knight f3, g6. You know, by the way, like, there are some people... Is what the flavor of banana comes from. Oh, interesting. It's like artificial banana flavor? I would think like some people would maybe... I'm going to turn off the analysis engine here. We don't like to use that too much. But some people could try to bust you with the h4, h5. I think it's most dangerous in setups where white plays an early knight c3 against the Dutch. You know, so if we went d4, f5, c4, knight f6, knight c3, the so-called Korchnoi attack. If you play g6, you get hammered with h4, h5, and exchange sacks. You know, so this is like devastatingly dangerous. White has a straight shot to h5, and you can sack the exchange right away, like rook takes h5, or this, threatening rook takes h5. But if you water it down enough, you know, this type of position here, white's played c4, bishop g2, g3. You know, I don't think this is all that dangerous. So, you can't play the English and then play like a maniac, necessarily. It's playable, but it's not that sharp. White instead plays correctly. Now, knight c3, bishop g7. Oh, there's one other thing I should mention, which I didn't. If white wants to try to take advantage of the so-called Lithuanian Anglo variation, the Anglican, Litho-Anglican defense, yeah, I think the way to try to do it would be to bust it directly with d4. Which raises an interesting question. Or we could do it one move later. Let's say... Well, let's just say this. Okay, now, I mean, this is unusual to play the Dutch with knight c6 so quickly. So does black play like e6, e5... Bent Larsen versus Satan's daughter. No. There was a game there. Let's see. d4, knight f6. This is interesting. Allowing d5, maybe going to e5. So there's some funky stuff you could do. But I think that's like a very critical test. I mean, black could also play maybe d6 and allow like d5, knight e5. This is also very like funkadelic. But anyway, that's like a very sharp try for white to take advantage of. Try to directly take advantage of the knight on c6 by hitting it with this battering ram. White doesn't seem like he's in the mood for that, so he just plays like normal English moves. Knight c3, whatever. Bishop g7, castles. As I said to you guys before, I don't know where everybody is. We've got Just Snuggles a Snail. Who else is here? Asterbait, Mr. Coffee. It's a big night for us on Thursday nights. Gita B, Husky. Good to see you people. All right. So it's a very intimate evening, usually on Thursdays. I was going to say, my usual lecture is that, bad moves become good moves when they go unpunished. I'm not sure if knight c6 how bad a move it is, but white has certainly done nothing to try to punish it. So black gets away with this funky move order. Castles. And now d4 is a mainline knight c6 Leningrad Dutch if you play d6. An old favorite of John Curdo, FIDE master and New England legend. I lost a game with Huang Trang, the highest rated Hungarian woman these days. Grandmaster Huang Trang. And I had a game this classic line with like d5 knight here. This is very, it leads to very imbalanced and strange positions. That might be one of the only times I've ever lost to the Dutch. Only a couple of times. I lost to a Dutch Stonewall once. I lost to her in the Leningrad. I also beat her before, but we had some battles. Chess fan, yes, we're analyzing or something. Every Thursday night we do game analysis for the subscribers that submitted their games on time. All right. So d4 transposes. This guy wanted to play the English, so he plays d3. This is more conservative, but fine. Now it's a closed English after d6. And now white plays a very strange move. As you can see in the opening explorer, the number one move here is rook b1. Rook b1 is dual purpose. It gets the rook off the long diagonal of this fianchetto bishop while supporting b4, or whilst, correct? Whilst supporting b4. It's a dual purpose move. Attacking and defending at the same time. The problem is Asamil Acetate, banana flavor, played a3. This move is just, it's lame, like this move doesn't get our rook off the long diagonal, and it's sort of like a lamer way of supporting b4. I mean, I don't know, white has to be really careful of this diagonal. Like, I'm not sure you even want to play b4, because black could do some crazy move like knight e4 or something. So a3 is not great. Now, I kind of like knight h5 with the idea of f5, f4. We can actually play with black without even moving our e-pawn. Curdo used to do this a lot. Idea f4, bishop g4, queen d7, bishop h3, and kingside attack. Black can save time by not even bothering to move his e-pawn, is what I'm saying. All the pieces get out, and this pawn can just stay here on e7. I literally don't need to move that pawn to begin our, completing our development. But instead, Ubatis didn't really think about it. He just kind of robotically played e5. Okay, this transposes back into something. But a3 is a really weak move, so you're not going to see that many games now. It's pretty much like never played in this position unless black plays a5. Now we see a3, okay, e5. Now he plays rook b1. So a3 wasn't really necessary. And now white is threatening b4. What's up, Nils? Oh, throw me the terrible game. Love it. A contrast, something different. A terrible game. Let's tear your terrible game apart and just tear it to shreds here for fun. Feel free to submit bad games as well as good ones. They make very good practical learning, you know, for everyone. You can always submit it as anonymous or NN. You can do. This is a game my friend played. It's like anonymous tip. I heard it from a friend. This is my friend's game. You have the link to the study, right? Probably. But yeah, I can find it. You played a GM who played a beautiful sack and won on the evil chess site. Now Yabatis played a5. Okay, I guess it's okay. You know, it justifies a3 though. I think somehow by reverse logic, a5 is probably not a great move if it justifies a3. Nevertheless, okay, so black should probably play h6, allow b4. White just wasted time with a3. Now we do g5. This looks like best play. Black's got a bunch of wins here. 3 out of 4. 3 out of 4 ain't bad. Yabatis justifies a3. Here's a common misconception that I learned long ago. The problem with b4 and the problem with a5 is that after AB, you think you gained something, but you actually lost something here. I remember a game from 30 plus years ago. I was watching, not one of my games, but a Grandmaster game, where black was like, oh, a5, you know, you got the open a file. The problem is you got the open a file, now you lose it, because white's supposed to play bishop e2, followed by rook a1. Then we hijack the a file, and black's best defense in that kind of situation is actually like to play something like rook b8 usually, which just is very bad. We end up losing the a file, and this is the reason why you'll hear people say you should play on the strong side of the board. Basically, the lesson is a5 playing on the opponent's stronger side. This is a Sicilian or English. Sicilian reversed. When we play on the opponent's side, we further his play on that side of the board ultimately. We temporarily have the open a file, but we lose it when white plays bishop b2, rook a1. Now he plays h6, and now white makes a big mistake. Okay, b5 is alright. Knight e7. It's also, like, sometimes you can go here. I don't think that's that common in this structure. Knight e7, because black's playing for, like, a King's Indian type of thing on the other side. Believe it or not, like 35 years ago, I used to play like this with black. It's a kind of close Sicilian. But anyway, white's supposed to play bishop b2 here, and the main reason for that is to support rook a1. This diagonal and connecting with the a1 square, we will usurp the a file and use it for white's advantage in the long run. But Ismail Astate plays bishop d2. This is not as good, because now if you try something like rook a1, there'll be rook a1, queen a1. I mean, there could be some danger on along the diagonal with e4. If white shovels that e-pawn forward, we could have some issues there tactically. So now black just plays g5, which looks good. And as you can see, there's a whole bunch of games here with quality players. Fabio Bruno, Komeljanovic, this Indian woman master against Elizabeth Potts. There's a Lucas Brunner game with black. So there's a whole bunch of good master games here. This is a relatively common position. Again, the bishop on d2 not as good as b2, but still. But the next move is really kind of crazy. White now does what black did on the queen side. White plays on black's strong side with h4. That doesn't look right, ladies and gentlemen. Now, if you're not castled, it might be a different scenario. I haven't really had that much time to deeply go over this game, but I feel like there's a strong likelihood here that black has even better than what he did in the game. If only we had had time, honestly, if only we had had time to play like queen e8, queen h5, black would have a very strong attack on the king's side. But I'm wondering if black could sack a pawn directly. See, Yabatis plays g4. But I mean, the problem with this position is that you have to understand from the perspective of strategy, from the perspective of closed Sicilian. When you play the closed Sicilian, the Grand Prix attack, closed Sicilian, whatever, your bishop is blocked by the pawn on f5. So the actually natural advance is not g4, but f4. The idea is to play f4 because you enhance the diagonal of this bishop, you open it up, you tear away at g3, you open up stuff like queen e8, queen h5, and the pieces filter in kind of like classically here. Now, in this particular example, the problem is that g5 is hanging. But I mean, I'm a little bit skeptical about this. Obviously, the black king is open, but if he tries to like take here, and let's say we take, and now he takes that pawn. I mean, the knight's unprotected. I'd be kind of surprised if black doesn't have realistic compensation for this pawn. Mickey and Husky, welcome, guys. Can you play queen e8 anyway? Well, you can. You know, I think you can. And you can play it now if you wanted to. But I'm not sure if we can sack two pawns or not. I mean, you could play it anyway without f4. You know, you could play just like this, like sacking this pawn, for example, here. But we have to calculate different variations now. He's got like bishop takes g5. But I mean, in general, there are all kinds of pawn sacrifices we could do here. Yeah. I mean, white has weakened himself with h4, so I want to keep an open mind in this. I am not sure that g4 is the right way to go, necessarily. It's very committal. Let's see what the Oracle says. Oracle is down with g4. It likes g4. So it likes g4. But I want to be open-minded. You know, I think this is an interesting move, sacking a pawn. This is exactly what the engine says. hg5, hg5, knight takes g5, queen e8, which would actually be a second pawn sack because of like pawn takes pawn. Now we're 2 pawns down. 4 against 6. Queen h5, classic. It's like a classic closed Sicilian pawn sack or Grand Prix attack style plan. See, this is dangerous though. You don't want to trade queens after sacking a couple pawns. So here's like a very sharp variation. Knight g4, rook e1, and it looks like white's getting mated, but not quite. It would have been very dicey. All right. Anyway, going back, I think you gotta have an open mind about that. G4 is the game continuation. Unfortunately, this closes the position to some degree. White has a choice. The knight h2 in the dragon is usually a very bad problem. It can bail back through f1 to e3. So he decides to put it on e1, where at least it has a chance to get out over here. White's basic strategy is to lock the king side and then begin central and queenside play. And that's all right, except you'll see what happens. It would be a good idea. h5, I'm not sure about that move, to be honest. I suspect h5 is unnecessary. If white plays something like queen c1, fine. You know, we'll do like king h7 or move the pawn. But it seems like black should probably go with a different plan here. Again, f4. I mean, this looks very dangerous to me. Because the moment you take here, you're getting wailed on by like g6. Knight g6, hitting this, hitting this. I think this is stronger than the game. I mean, it looks like white might be lost. I mean, knight takes h4 is going to like devastate his king side. He loses the white square bishop, he's in big trouble. You know, assume like this or something. But what do you do about this pawn? And h5, you just take it. Imagine like black has knights on h5 and h4 or something. So I think he has even better ways to play. You know, f4, okay, he doesn't have to take. f4 he won't take. But now we're threatening knight f5, we're threatening knight g6, threatening queen e8. We have kingside attack. Instead, Ubatis plays this, h5, kind of time consuming, but white's playing is also time consuming, knight c2. This g5 square might help white. Now knight g6, I'm not crazy about that. In fact, maybe white should play bishop g5. I would probably play it, because that bishop, it's a little overrated on d2. If you play bishop g5 now, casting down on h5, what's black going to do? We can't stay in this pin forever. So I think h5 was a mistake. Bishop g5 is a good call. This looks all right for white. Yeah, he's all right. He's gonna chop that off, and then have good control of d5. Now, so this moment is like, now we have to strike now. Before you give him a chance to come into g5. g5 was a bad idea. I mean, playing h5 was a bad idea. Allowing bishop g5. So the game was h5, knight c2, knight g6, knight e3. Now f4. Now knight d5. And now there's no bishop g5. Black goes here, which is okay. Neutral move. Takes. I'm not sure that helps white. What is white's queen doing? Maybe you should try something like queen c1, or rook a1. I talked about the a file. But watch what happens here. White's a good player. I mean, 2293. So is Ubatis. I'm just saying, this is not like he's playing a weak opponent. Queen f6, knight e4, queen e7, and now everything looks okay for white. f3's prevented. So long as f3 doesn't happen, white is okay. I mean, by the way, you could play, after queen f6, you could play something like maybe knight d5, no? With the idea of b6. But here, queen f7, threatening f3. Can you send the link of the study, please? Well, it's a private study? I'm not sure. I can send the link to the study if you like. I'm not sure if it's private. You may not be able to access it. We don't normally do that, but it's alright. Paste. So I guess knight d5, queen f7, if b6, f3 is on the table. I don't think that white really wants to allow his bishop to get stuffed back to h1. It may not be decisive, but it's something that you probably don't want to allow to have happen. So he plays knight e4, queen e7. Now f3 is not a threat, but he plays this, and obviously, like, if b6, there's this diagonal, so there are tactics based on knight takes d6. I don't know what the final word is on that, but Ubatis plays bishop f5, challenging the knight on e4. It looks like white's doing well. I think he thinks he's better. He thinks he's better, and he's just like breaking up black's pawn structure. But he pulls the trigger at the wrong moment, and now black just plays like c5, shutting him down completely. And that's nice, you know, that you have b5 and the d5 square is weak. But now it's like, you can't undermine black's structure. White is like, okay, well, he's still fine, right? But he's not. He allows this. This is crushing. Knight takes h4. You just sack a piece for 2 pawns. It's devastating. I don't know what black, you know, what white's gonna do. I think white probably has to, well, I don't know. White's in a lot of trouble. I guess bishop h1 would be the only try, realistically. I was thinking, what would happen if you did something like this, 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 and this? You know, like, seriously. Is white just dead here because of h4? Now, is there any way that white would survive this position? For example? Is anybody out there? Guys, please support the stream if you can and subscribe. We're doing this stream for the subscribers. If you are a subscriber to the stream, we'll put Nils on the list. Nils, let me know if you want to do that game. Nils just tipped $10. Wow. Wow. He wants to see the anonymous loss annotated. Alright. Nils, thank you very much for your generous donation. Support the stream. Not only is he a subscriber, but he also donates $10 to the stream. I am next, cuz I already played. I already paid. So is this winning? What do you guys think? Interesting. Wow. Knight fianchetto. Computer says that black is better. Like 1 pawn better. But anyway, my point was white cannot give up that like light squared bishop. He needs to keep the light squared bishop on the board. I don't think that white can accept a sacrifice. It looks like after this, and this, black is winning. The attacking chances based on f3 and g3 are just too strong. And you can't play like king g2 because of queen h3 check. I think that white is just lost after this. It was a really nice sacrifice that white underestimated. But Yabatis's like move order may have been inaccurate. He played bishop takes e4 first. I think he should play knight takes h4 first. After bishop takes e4, knight takes h4, white can maybe transposes, but white can not take and try to survive. But instead he took, and I don't think he can survive now. This looks like it's over. The main thing is that g3 is devastating. Black to play in pretty much any position now. g3 is simply devastating. And there's almost nothing white can do about it. He's basically getting mated. Plus there's the additional ability of this rook to come down. So he was like, oh, it's not sound, it's a couple pawns for a piece. No, it's like mate. White is mated. Bishop g2, it doesn't help, but I don't think there's a defense here. It's like -6. The best move is bishop e1. Bishop e1, g3, hasta la vista. Yeah, he has like sacking a piece maybe. Take, 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 check. Take, 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 check. Bishop g2 with the idea of bishop h6, I assume, here. Or maybe, as in the game, there's e4 with the idea of bishop d4. Ops-colored bishops. Some bishops are better than others. Very nice game. Very, very nice game here by black. Animal Farm. Bishop. So white can't defend. He played bishop g2, g3, f takes g. Obviously there's a mate at h2. Takes. Now rook f3, freeing up the f1 square. And black has a couple ways to win. I think he can win by check and then h5, h4, h3. But instead he plays this, opening up this diagonal for the dark squared bishop. Takes, check, king f1. Again, this also wins, but it's very elegant. Rook takes f3, e takes f, and now bishop d4. Penny Yabatis had another game he played that was kind of similar. Yeah, this is brutal. He's like losing everything. There's this, the bishop falls with check, there are mates, the rook's coming down here. So white justifiably resigned. All right, good game from Yabatis, who's not here tonight, but I'm impressed. All right, so, and that's against a strong opponent, rated around 2,300. Again, who has submitted games here to stream. Mr. Coffee, how are you? Thanks everybody for joining me. I'm International Master William Paschall, aka Slaggy. We go over serious games on Thursdays. No challenges or anything like that. I try to do, you know, very serious master analysis. Nils, all right, where are you? Nils's game is in his own personal study. Niel. Are you online? Is this the correct one? Yeah. Game 4. Okay. Charming. Mr. Coffee's chugging. How's our hype train? Guys, please support the stream. Alright, hype train on the way. Hype train pro. Nils is white. It looks like the game's been analyzed. Oh. Wow. Strength unknown. Nils is white, d4 player. His opponent plays d5. He plays c4, challenging the center. Very important move, the Queen's Gambit. And now black played dubious, I agree, knight f6, one of the so-called, the hype train out of steam at the moment. Dubious knight f6. Why is this move no good? It does not support the center. It attacks the center, but it does not support the center. Black placed upon in the center and then doesn't support it. Mr. Coffee and Astrobate, thank you guys. 100 bits each. Knight of 6 is your favorite move? What? It's like the worst move in chess. Alright, so black fails to support his pawn on d5. White destroys it, correct. C takes d, and now white has a clear advantage after c takes d5. Queen takes is also very bad for black, losing time. Knight takes d5, and now Nils plays the book Refutation, which is knight f3. I studied this 35 years ago. The old Encyclopedia of Chess recommends knight f3 as best. Main line is usually g6, h3 exclamation. Stopping bishop g4, playing against the bishop on c8. After this, bishop g7, you have to be like Mamedyarov or something to get away with it. Knight b6, knight c3, castles, advantage to white. ideal position for white. It's like an Uber Grunfeld. Um, yeah, very seriously bad opening for black. No good players will play this, other than Mamedyarov, um, who plays also other garbage like the G5 Budapest Gambit. He's so good that it doesn't matter how unsound his opening is. Bjock, welcome. But anyway, now after knight f3, there are other moves. Bishop f5 is interesting. International master Danny Kopek played this against me. There, the book move is knight d2, and black plays knight f6, and I played queen b3. He played queen c8, and now I fished out and got no real advantage after g3, but did later find this idea of a gambit with e4. This is untested, but it's actually very dangerous for black. Hype Train consists of you and Asterbait, one of those hand cars on the track. Absolutely, man. Thank you for trying. Bjock, we just started the stream like 20 minutes ago. So nobody is really out of game analyzed except for Yabatis. Alright. We're giving away secret information. So that's a move. That's a move. I guess you could play knight b6 if you wanted to. Mostly g6. e6 is playable. After e6, e4, knight somewhere, knight c3. I guess you transpose to one of my games. This is not even the right position. Is this c5, d5? I guess I played with knight on f6. Knight f6, knight c3, c5, d5, ed5. Computer, yeah, ed5, ed5, bishop d6. See this game here? I played with black. I never really thought about it. You could get it out of the Marshall defense. Yeah. But highly dubious. Everything's dubious for black here. So he plays c6. This is extremely passive. And, I mean, black just has no counterplay. It's worse than the Alyakin's defense. Or Alyakin. It's worse. So now, e4. I want to mention one other thing. Here, after knight d5, Nils, you can play e4. This is also good. But I'll show you the idea. Marshall's idea was to play it like this, knight f6. Now you can play e5 and be slightly better in a Queen's Gambit accepted type position, like e5, knight d5, bishop c4, where there's no pawn on c4. But you know what really is interesting? Knight c3 allowing Marshall's move e5, and now you can actually play knight f3, for example, still have a slight edge. But you can even take here. You know, what's interesting is if you turn on the engine, even this ending that Marshall considered to be like a trick or whatever, even in the trick variation, like queen takes, king takes, knight g4, check this out. Forking f2 and forking e5. The opening is so bad that even like the best tricks are clearly better for white. I mean, I never analyzed this like to death with Stockfish, but it might be worth, you know, investigating. So even here, it looks like white's still clearly better if you really know what you're doing. King e1. Let's say, like, I don't know, bishop c5, f4, f4. Check this out, f4, and if knight f2, knight a4. Just saying. This is, man, I mean, this is like, Chess is a beautiful game. There's a lot of really dynamic positions you can find. You know, white sacks the exchange here with like knight h1, knight takes c5. I mean, this gets trapped in the corner, and black's like lost. I mean, obscure openings like this haven't been analyzed that deeply, but I mean, there's some cool stuff that can be discovered. So even in the worst variation, like black's position sucks in this opening. So okay, there's new discoveries to be made, but I always also just simply play knight f3 because it's easier. Black plays c6. You played e4. Black plays knight f6, attacking your pawn. You could play e5, but I prefer to keep the tension. And now bishop g4. This is a good idea because at least he gets to like trade pieces, maybe, if he's lucky. So I'm going to turn off the engine here. Pavel Skachkov. Pavel Skachkov also plays the highly dubious Elephant Gambit, which I played the other day. The deal with the guy seems to be that he's a grandmaster, but he was originally like a 2200 who played unsound openings, and he's like now a grandmaster who plays unsound openings. I guess once he started, he couldn't stop, but somehow he got to GM level. But looks like bishop e3 is good. This is a move I would play because it's developing. It's aggressive. The bishop's on a powerful square. There's no knight g4 that can hit it. And if h3, we can maybe like just take with the queen. Nils's move is okay, but I would say like between these two moves, bishop e3 and bishop e2, bishop e3 is a little more aggressive of the two. I don't think that bishop e2 is like a mistake, but you know the real question is like what you're gonna do next. Like after bishop e3, let's say e6. There's this Dare Mare versus Ix game in 2018. What's the point? Are we gonna castle queenside? I mean, because white could do something crazy, you know, trying to castle queenside, but it doesn't seem necessary. You could play like queen c2, rook d1, allow this structure, man. Help yourself. Like, I really don't mind black taking here and doubling my pawns if I have the ultimate pawn center. Mikhail Botvinnik versus X. You know, this is like terrible for black. What is it? +1, +2. You know, it's a very, very dubious position for black. So like you don't have to be worried about the double pawns. Bishop e2 is slightly conservative. Now knight on bd7. All right. Is there any chance of like e6 happening? Because my first thought was h3. If he tries to play bishop h5, we try to blast him with e5, and then like e6 here. Try to like shatter his king side, for example. Dr. Tripchance asked how is queen b3. That's what he played. I don't know which position you mean. Like you could play queen b3 right away, but I think that black there can play. You know, there's always like bishop takes f3. I don't know if you want to do this. Kind of greedy, but it might be good. Sometimes greedy is good. I would imagine black could also play queen b6, offering to trade queens. I don't really want to trade queens. That's the problem. You know, the only problem here, I really, really would prefer to keep the queens on the board with such a massive center. So, you could play that. But I prefer bishop e3, securing the d4 pawn. I mean, the main point is, this is really well protected. So, alright, bishop e2, knight d7, you could play e5, and if knight d5, you have a really good Caro-Kann at the very minimum. You also have this type of stuff like knight g5. Now it is an Alyakin. It looks like it is an Alyakin's defense. For example, bishop e2, queen e2, e6. Black seems to be okay after that. I mean, unless this is a serious problem, like queen f3. That could be serious. If black has to play queen e7, he has an issue. That's concerning, actually. What happens here? It's funny. This actually looks really strong. Another good point of knight rather bishop e2, I mean to say. So quick look at this position. Black played knight of d7. He should have played e6. So this move, now you have this. Nils, I don't know if you knew this idea, because you're not an e4 player. But it's a common theme in Alyakin. Yeah, he's in trouble now. But I might have missed it too. It's like take. It looks like you have nothing. But after this square. Even queen h5 is playable. To induce g6, you know, and then come back. And he's a goner. I mean, he has to play this, but now his position is like wrecked. It's a disaster. I mean, what is black gonna do? It looks like he's destroyed. You can play knight e4 here, bishop g5. So major inaccuracy. Nils played queen b3, and this is, you know, it's just not that dangerous. You're not really, you know, you're only threatening like maybe knight g5, kind of cheapo, and maybe queen takes b7. But if he plays queen b6, what are you gonna do? You know, you're probably gonna have to trade queens or move your queen again. And if you move your queen again, you're dropping this d4 pawn. Like bishop f3, queen takes. So, yeah. Queen b3 is a mistake. e5 was very strong. And now this. But this is bad too. Now he has a bad knight on b6. Actually, you have many positional players playing e4 other openings, of course. No, I mean, look at the young Karpov. You know, Karpov played e4. Karpov, Michael Adams, I mean, they played e4 in a very positional way. There are different types of e4 and such players. So now you're just like bishop e3, and you're just better. It's a good Slav, a very good Slav for white. Extremely good Slav for white. You're threatening a4, a5, knight e5, just simply castles. But instead, Nils played knight e5, which I presume... Well, I mean, even this might be good. The question is d5, though. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4. If bishop e6, what are you doing? You don't have this, do you? Do you have some kind of d5 tactic that works, like takes, check? Can you make this work somehow? Like, knight on bd7, okay. This looks good. We definitely got him now. If you could get this position, I think you're golden. But is that forced? After bishop e6, you play queen d1 double question mark. See, Nils is lazy and he doesn't want to calculate. That's the problem. Gotta look for the forcing moves. This is the first one. There's no knight on f6, no pawn on g7, it's bishop h5 mate, right? But okay, we throw that in the rubbish right away. But the secret to tactics is, my friend Charlie Hertan wrote this book. Oddly, he's not a really good tactical player, but he wrote a book on chess tactics. He calls it forcing moves. The secret to tactics is calculating the forcing moves. That's the premise of his book. This is a forcing move. This is a forcing move. And that's about it. I mean, how many other forcing moves do you have in this position? So you don't need to calculate that many moves. I mean, you played the lazy retreating move, and you kept a slight advantage. But if we calculate this, yeah, you counted 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't have enough protection. Take, if you take, presumably black's okay. Knight takes. Even this probably works for white, right? Like bishop e5 check. I was seeing these weird variations like this. Check. I wasn't sure if there was some variation where you can like grab that bishop on b5, but it's always protected. Like, I don't think there's any place this actually works. There's no variation where this would actually work. Yeah, so I guess he's just toast here. He can't recapture. So he has to play like that, you know, and then there's this x-ray against f7. You know, you could get to this position and not see a way clear, you know what I mean? But now he has positional problems. Say you get this far in your analysis and you're like, well, I don't know if this works because of like e6. Or I don't know if, you know, this is enough because, yeah, I guess he has to play e6. You could calculate this far and then not be sure. But I think now, you know, you don't necessarily need a knockout blow. I mean, you see this pawn now. Knight on f6, knight on b6. We own d5, we own e5, we own e4, we own d4. We own the entire center. And now black can't move his e-pawn very easily. He probably has to play like, you know, g6 or something. Yeah, it's really, really dangerous for black. So you have to combine positional considerations with tactics. Nils is good with positional considerations, but he, you know, couldn't see his way clear here, so just play queen d1 to defend this pawn. Otherwise, queen c2 drops the center. This is no good. You can calculate this. You know, it's quite interesting, actually. You probably should have considered this as a pawn sack, you know, maybe bishop f4 with the idea of rook d1, but it can be dismissed pretty quickly, I think. It looks like black has a retreat square here, and, you know, I don't think you have enough compensation, but you should at least consider it. So queen d1. Now, knight, this is a very horrible looking move. Knight fd7, and now, again, forcing moves are kind of hard to come by here. I think like knight f3 might be exclamation point. I don't know. What do you guys think? I don't want to trade pieces when I have space advantage. You can calculate this type of stuff again. You know, maybe. This is obviously very bad for black. But he has takes. And I don't see anything really clear. Even this might be good for you, though, honestly. Take. Maybe bishop takes. Knight takes. Knight takes e5 or something, you know? I don't know. I mean, even this looks really sketchy for black. But I'm going to say that I think you should probably consider just coming back to f3. There's also f4. What would Alexander Alyakin have played against your countryman, Max Uwe, if this had been one of their games? The best moves according to the engine. The straightforward 97, that's a surprise. Knight f3, bishop g4, allowing black to trade pieces. Knight d3. That's an interesting move with the idea of knight f4, allowing like bishop to come here. Black stays alive. You don't want to trade pieces if you can help it, but you did have to consider this. Why is knight takes d7 so good? It's a problem with this. You know, again, it's like bishop e5. That's the problem. So he has to take with the bishop. But I mean, how bad is this? You know, the computer says that white is better by 2 points or something. I mean, really? Is it that easy? You know, the computer's going to be like A4, G6. This looks like a game I had with Grishuk. A5, knight C8. Hello. Black could live to fight another day here, but his position is highly dubious, obviously. But again, you know, I probably would have leaned toward not exchanging pieces. And the other move is interesting, F4, to try to get this big ominous center going on. So, all right, you played bishop F4. This is still a good move, but it does allow exchanges. Knight E5, bishop E5, and now he goes for a second exchange with either bishop C4 or knight C4. It's too late to submit. All right, no mistress jokes. No, there's time. We've got like 6 games or something. It's never too late to submit to the alpha male. Bishop C4. Trading pieces. Maybe, you know, the nice thing about bishop F4 is that it kills G6 as a plan. White is better here. I guess knight C4 is our main concern. But actually there, okay, yeah, you're on B2, you're on E5. I mean, everything's good. You could just hack that off, play like queen D2, you know, and castle queenside and still be better. Is my game submitted? No. No? You gotta send me a message. I mean, maybe you did, but I didn't get it. Make it clear when you guys send me a game that I've received it. Dr. T and Move 11. Dr. T is a late submitter and he usually submits like bullet games for analysis. Alright, here, 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 here. Bishop C4. Looks like a reasonable try. Yeah, and black's still alive, which is an accomplishment. Now rook E1. Dr. Tripchance, you submitted the game 2 weeks ago. Look, I don't like, you know, keep a list of games from 2 weeks ago. Alright, we will find it. Rook E1. Yeah, I mean, this looks kind of lame, but you got to do something now. I guess rook E1 is okay. Another idea is A4. I think A4, A5 maybe for black. You know, you're clearly not necessarily winning here. You're better. Slightly better. Rook E1. And then the horrifying F6. Oh. Just when black was almost okay, right? I mean, understandable. Husky would play like sack his G7 pawn and crush me in 18 moves. Black has to find a dynamic way to play the position, or would prefer to play a dynamic style here, where he doesn't have to play the awful F6. But it's not so easy, you know. Here, totally weakening his king side. I think bishop F4 looks right. There, developing pieces. Now, you obviously have the probing bishop H5 check. I think this move deserves serious consideration. There are very serious tactics, too. You know, you could go Tal style with, like, queen G4 or something. But it depends on how much time you have. You know, time... I'm not sure that Tal would have been able to play all those sacrifices all the brilliant sacrifices he played if he was playing Magnus Carlsen time controls. We would be missing a lot of like brilliant games by Mikhail Tal today if we're playing with rapid time control. Just saying, I'm gonna get on my rant. But this is a strong move, because this undermines e6. Alright, it looks like black has a problem here. There's a connection between those two squares, queen b3 and this diagonal. Ta was a great blitz player, but he still never would have played the deep brilliancies he played, you know. Blitz is another thing. It was a shallower game. It's a shallower game. Knight takes c4, queen b3. Does this work because of queen takes d4? You're dropping a piece, right? He's dropping a piece. So he has bishop d6. Or bishop takes c3. Interesting. So there's this move as well. But then e5. That looks clearly over. Right? I think that's pretty clear. So he has to play bishop takes c3. And now you just take back. The problem is, the guy has the super knight. Wow. This is kind of an issue. You have to consider all your options here. I would even consider like rook d1. But probably not. Queen takes is interesting. Because if you play queen takes, he doesn't get to keep his super knight forever. It's not a super knight anymore. It's a temporary knight. I mean, you've got a better minor piece, and you can oust him with b3. The problem with queen takes, I mean pawn takes, is that now he plays b5, and his knight is forever. And I think that black might be okay here. Unless you have d5 or a way to break it up immediate. Do you have d5? Man, this is a very tactical game. So a4, a6. You have capture on a6. You did d5 now. What about this? He takes with the a pawn and then recaptures with the queen, hanging on. Okay, so d5, and then he played e5, which is a natural move. It's kind of harsh to give it a question mark. So this is actually kind of tactical. e5, and now you have some refutation, like pawn takes pawn. It looks like this is a serious possibility. Nils didn't want to calculate, but it looks like black might be collapsing. We have to calculate a lot, you know, takes. For example, rook takes queen takes b5, knight d6, queen d5, with the idea of e5. Probably a winning position for white. Because black's only reasonable move gets like blown away by e5. Yeah, that's brutal, man. This looks like it's over. The only good move he has on the board is king e7, and he's just done. Ouch. Yeah, the computer said c7. I didn't see this. That's kind of a weird idea. Okay, this comes up later. White played bishop g3. This obviously is slow. And now queen c7. Could he castle and get the hell out of there before it's too late? Queen c7. D takes c6. That actually looks reasonable. Apparently black can hold on with rook b8. Tough move to find. He plays queen takes, and now the problem is, what are you going to do? He's a day late and $1 short now. The black was this close to hanging on. But I don't think he can hang on here now. You're just winning. Even with best play. Now this may be a serious mistake. Black can castle. Now you have rook a4. Yeah, he's probably lost now. It doesn't matter. Alright. I mean, it was a clear illustration of your stylistic challenge, you know, to play more tactically. You didn't punish your opponent efficiently because you're not calculating enough. I wouldn't really put it in the category of bad game. I mean, you didn't do anything horrible. All right, thank you for submitting the game. We've got to go back to our study. What do I got there? Trip Chance, thank you for refreshing that game. I got Move 11 and Dr. Trip are the last ones on the list. So that's your, like, what is that? Your, like, club championship or something else? What exactly is the tournament? Is it just like a club tournament, or is it like something official sounding? All right, next study. Back to our study. Thanks for supporting the stream. I got a little bit of lag going on. Wow, we got ping of 41. That's not laggy. Why is my stream seem so slow? Study. My studies. I feel like there's a mosquito in my room. My studies. Studies I contribute to. Like, where is it? Here. Your club championship. One day I'll face the 2000s of the club. The 2000s of the club. Well, I mean, you live in the Netherlands. It's a pretty strong chess country. I'd imagine the clubs there could be quite strong. Okay, we've got 19 viewers. Where is everybody? Don't watch anyone else. Don't watch other chess streamers. I'm serious about the game and I can help you get better. You don't need to leave the stream. Asterbate versus Puligol. Puligol. A pulley is like a sheepdog. It's like a Hungarian sheepdog with very long hair. Pulley. Asterbate versus sheepdog goal. Alright, Asterbate is white. It's e4, e5, knight c3, the Vienna. Knight f6. Critical move. f4. I was telling Asterbate that here, you know, I'm a little concerned. I've been trying to play the Vienna for fun. And I'm a little concerned about this, objectively. Because maybe, at the end of the day, f4 is not the best move. It looks like, you know, objectively, like white's best move is probably knight f3, transposing to the 4 knights or something, or 3 knights or whatever you want. But if you play f4, the problem is d5, and now we have to take black plays knight takes c4. This variation, move 11, also has played with white, or sorry, with black. It looks like black's at least equal here. And that's really a problem. You know, maybe more than equal. If you turn on the engine, queen f3 is the only move that equalizes for white. That concerns me, you know, objectively. If white can only get 0.0 with queen f3, I don't think this is that great of a line. But white is banking on black not knowing what they're doing. That doesn't work at the master level. Alright. But anyway, Asterbate, you can keep playing this, but I would recommend to you to incorporate other variations. Bishop c4 and g3. The Paulson, Mises variation, whatever. Paulson was also famous for playing this, and I think it's not bad. g3 and bishop c4 are both playable. Anyway, f4. Black now plays pawn takes pawn. Asterbate, thanks for the donation. 100 bits. So, I don't think this is bad. It's not the best, but it's not that bad. The problem is, after e5, he has to play the Brooklyn, knight g8. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Surprisingly, this position is not that bad for black. It's probably like his second best. This is literally like the second best way. I think this is actually probably better than, say, like a lot of people play d6 here. You're literally probably better off like taking e5 and knight g8 than playing d6. It's slightly better for white, but not that easy. But you have to go back. This makes black's position worse. You see, the problem is coordination. Black literally went from the frying pan into the fire here. He has one problem, right? That his knight has to retreat. Now he has two problems. His knight has to retreat, and his queen is blocking his bishop. If the solution to your problem doesn't solve your problem, it's not a solution. It's very deep. This doesn't solve the problem, man. I mean, it just like gets in the way of your bishop. And worst case scenario, we have a symmetrical situation. But that doesn't help black any more than it helps white. It makes it worse. Because guess who has more control of the center here? One. Let's see. 2, 3. When that knight leaves, it's looking bad for black after knight d5. I mean, even like this, king d1 or something. I don't even want to know. It just doesn't look good. So queen e7 is a real big mistake. But Asterbait, what if you play queen e2, and what's he going to do here? I think your move is probably okay as well. There's one problem with knight f3. Black has knight h5, doesn't he? I guess it's still not that bad. No, he also has d6. I think you need to play queen e2. He doesn't have this, or this. So he has to play knight g8. Now I suspect knight d5 is a strong move. I wasn't sure about this move. Check. What do we do? Do we play an endgame with like queen f2? Because this is better for white. Even this is better for white. Like seriously. Bishop c5 check. I bet white's better. Plus 0.8. Even this position. That's like worst case scenario. Alright, so Asterbait plays this. And now black has time to play d6. So I feel like you made a slight inaccuracy. d6, d4. Now he should probably play pawn takes pawn. And which way do we recapture? With the knight or with the pawn? Both are playable, but I'm not sure. Let's see what the oracle says. So check it out. Boom. D takes e5, knight h5. If knight d5, queen d8, black is okay, according to the engine. Because you didn't play queen e2. One little mistake is all it takes to like let your advantage slip. Mr. Serious Game Analysis. Where is everybody going? This is the only good stream. This is the only good chess stream. The only place where you can really learn something. Knight g8. Okay, that's best. Anyway, queen e7, knight f3, d6, d4, knight c6. Now this is bad because you have bishop e5. Now I suspect bishop b5, bishop d7, and it looks like you're playing Xerox. I don't know, man. Queen e2. Yeah, you got queen e2 again. You have a second chance to play it now. So bishop e5 getting developed quickly. I guess this move is okay. Slightly materialistic. D takes e5, d takes e5. And now black must develop. Where? Bishop d7, bishop g4. Bishop g4 is the most thematic. This could be very, very sharp. I assume it's better for white. Well, what's the next move? Bishop e2. What's white's next move? Bishop e5? Maybe bishop e5. Kind of sharp position. But this, I suspect, is incorrect. It's like you got a game of chicken and the other guy like veers off the side of the road. You know, he doesn't understand how to play chicken. When you play chicken, you have to keep going. Like, you can't suddenly like turn your head the other way, you know, and veer off because you lose. The minute you veer off, you lose. Like, knight d5. Hello, how's your c7 pawn doing? You tried to get me a big raid, but failed worse than the Cleveland Browns. Don't worry about it. We don't need those big raids. But I appreciate the thought. I really appreciate the thought, Delver Flips. I'm just not. I'm not a big self promoter. It's cool. It's totally cool. It's like they say at Hallmark. It's the thought that counts. But knight g4 is seriously a bad move. He's lost d5. Masturbates all over him. Queen c5 now. I don't know what to play. Can the guy play like queen d8? It's e6, right? Thematic punishment of the c7 square. This looks really bad. Can you imagine this variation? Bishop d6. Maybe he can stay alive here. Pawn f7 and then you have to play like king f8. I don't know. This looks ugly. King takes? I don't want to know. Like bishop c4. It's very dangerous for black. So he plays, you know, he's probably lost here. Yeah. I mean, it looks lost. Knight d5, queen c5. And now knight takes check, and you've got queen d6 check. Forcing a trade of queens into almost mate while winning a rook simultaneously. King e7. Is there no mate? The old astrobate used to find mates. I mean, it's really close to a mate, but I don't see it. You know, you don't mind trading queens when you're winning a whole rook, right? Check, take, king f6 or king d7. Thought he was going to go out here for some reason. You win the rook. At least the exchange. Yeah. And now he's like giving you another piece with rook d1. Well, I guess castles is good too. They're both good. Rook d1, rook e8 check, bishop e2, and then rook e6 could temporarily defend. I assume this is also unhealthy for black. You allow here a fork, but it doesn't matter because you're taking on d6 with check. This is actually better. And you're just up 8,000 pieces. Ooh. It would be preferable to play bishop e6. Maybe not. Alright, good game, man. Generally good, but I want to point out one thing. When you play this key move here, e5, queen e7, you got to play queen e2. This is a serious inaccuracy. Next time, because you will get this position again, you must play queen e2. This is very important. And now both of you have your bishops blocked, but the important thing is that you won control of d5. So after knight g8, my only question was this check here. I guarantee you, if you continue to play this opening, you will get this exact position on the board in the next like month or two, and this is like slight advantage to white, but you have king d1. What a fun position, right? Queen d8, d4. How do you feel? Do you prefer the safety of queen f2? I was wondering about this, honestly. This is variation 3. Let's see what's behind door number 3, because this is more fun. g3, f takes g3, and I don't know what's going on. Problem is he's going to queen on h1 while grabbing a rook, which is a lot of material. So apparently that's so serious that you have to play king d1 anyway. And now after queen d8, it's just like, you just go about your business like it's the freaking Banco. Knight f3. Hey, let's play the Banco. So you have 3 options, all of which are good. Alright, anyway. Good game, Masturbate. Thanks for sharing. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Alright. Tomorrow, more Blitz. Friday morning. Miro, you're alive. Good. Dr. T. That always reminds me of Mr. T and Mrs. T's pierogies. But you're Dr. T. Alright. After 14 hours sleep. Good to see you guys. Tell your friends about the stream if you enjoy it, if you find it instructive. Make your grandmother tune in. We need all the viewers we can get. We need to make people understand chess the way it should be. Alright, I gotta move a little faster. We've got Ripun versus Durabali. Durabali. Not the easiest name to pronounce. Paschall is no problem. Durabali? That's a little trickier. Multiple ways to go wrong there. Ripun is playing white. I'm going to turn off the engine here. I don't think Ripun's here. It's a little late for him. But anyway, e4, c5, knight f3, d6. So Mr. Durabali seems to play the dragon and other fun stuff. He was streaming. But don't watch other people stream. I am the master. I've been doing this for long enough, and I think I know a little more about teaching people than most. d4, cd4, knight d4, knight f6, knight c3, g6. We've got bishop c4 now. Now, technically, this is inaccurate. Is it not? I'm not a dragon expert. What's up, Schieberspieler? Also, Schieberspieler streamer. Yeah, technically, you're supposed to play bishop e3. I don't remember offhand now. Well, I mean, it's committal, first of all, to play bishop c4. Knight g4 is not a threat because of bishop c4 or bishop e5 check, right? Didn't Miles have some game? I'm thinking of a different position. What am I thinking of here? Normal move order. If bishop e3, knight g4. Is it bishop e5 check? It is. Okay. Bishop e5 check, yeah, because you can't play this, you get snarfed on g4. Okay. So that's the technical move order. But what's wrong with bishop c4? See, you're going to get in trouble here because on bishop g7 now, you can't play bishop e3 because of knight g4. You know, and then check, king f8. Miles has played this with black. Sasanko. But I mean, actually, Tony M. Tony M was a dragon man. Even better than Sasanko. So that's considered to be good for black. But Ripun's move order is incorrect. Bishop c4, bishop g7. Now you can play a la Andy Soltis. Soltis, in addition to playing the dragon with black, I remember he wrote an article, a series for Chess Life 30 years ago, where he talked about the h3 system. If you want a safe way to play against the dragon, this is actually oftentimes like transposing to accelerated dragon. h3 and bishop c4 is playable. It's not bad. As far as I know. But this is not a good way to play to try to get into the main line. See, now Ripun had to play bishop b3. And you've lost the tempo. Like that's not normal to play bishop b3 so early. If you're trying to play a sharp line with f3 or castle long. This is inaccurate. So I guess you have to go h3 here. Even castle's kingside might be okay. I guess there's nothing that black can do. But eventually you're going to have to play h3. If not now, it'll be on the next move. So bishop e3, castles, And now Ripun did this very typical thing where people like castle kingside in the Yugoslav attack. It's well, he didn't castle actually. All right, he plays now f3. You know, I'm not certain Durabali should castle. Let's see. You can also play knight c6. I mean, there's no downside to knight c6 really. He might be able to play a quick like knight c6, knight a5. My stream looks good. I think we're okay. But you might want to refresh Twitch. It's not all that. Maybe the hack yesterday. They got a massive hack. I don't know if you guys heard about it, but basically a lot of stuff was stolen. Twitch massively hacked. Bishop e3 castles. Does it matter knight c6? I mean, is this accurate for some reason? The WIM, what? There is no WIM variation, I'm sorry. Yeah, knight c6, it depends. Castles, now f3. Knight c6, bishop e3. We've transposed. Wimp, oh sorry. The wimp variation. Well, that exists for sure. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, the problem is knight a5. That's an independent possibility that wouldn't normally exist. I don't know what the final word is. I'm no expert. So Durabali just plays normal move. And now h4. This is a very known idea. h5, queen d2. Now I play bishop h6. Clearly this is sharper. But I am out of my depth. I'm not an expert in the Soltis variation. Bishop h6. Idea rook c5. I guess the main line is like castles, rook c8, bishop g5, rook c5. I am not... This is Soltis variation. I'm not qualified to really give any deep analysis beyond what I see in the... I don't play this, you know, for either side. But white has to castle to transpose. So I'm not sure, you know, that this is what this is, really. Anand Topalov, 1993. You know, that's interesting. Yeah, right now, like, Dr. Chipchance is talking about Anand, bishop g5, blah, blah, blah. Anand was totally bamboozled by Kasparov in the World Championship match. Like, he didn't expect a dragon. He had nothing against it, and Kasparov just, like, made him look stupid. He refused to play any of the sharpest lines and just like kind of like traded queens and went into equal or nothing positions. That was weird, you know, but I don't really blame that on Anand. I think Anand didn't have, you know, he didn't know how to prepare for a World Championship match, and he didn't have a, his seconds were nothing compared to like Kasparov. Kasparov played how many World Championship matches and had like a team of experts who helped him prepare. I mean, there's no comparison, you know, and Anand had no chance in terms of like preparation and team, you know. He had no clue what he was doing. I mean, compared to Kasparov, this is a big deal. All right. But anyway, I don't know. This isn't really like a main line. Bishop h6. I assume Durabali knows a lot of theory. And now white plays g4. But the problem is, can white's attack work without castling, you know? Without the rooks being connected? Yeah, Anand and Kasparov only had one match. Honestly, it never should have happened. You know, the only reason Anand played Kasparov in a World Championship match is because Anatoly Karpov lost to Nigel Short. And that never should have happened. You know, that was like a joke. I mean, all due respect to the great Nigel Short, he wasn't really qualified to be playing for the World Championship. He stole from the world by beating Karpov in their match what should have been like one more match between Karpov and Kasparov. There should have been one last match between Karpov and Kasparov. Now instead we have a crappy match between Kasparov and Anand, and Karpov losing to Nigel Short. You know, the chess world was cheated out of one last iconic battle between Nigel Short, between Kasparov and Karpov. It's a shame that it never happened. Anyways, g4, bishop h6, and again I'm out of my depth here. Can black take this? Because I'm kind of thinking like, let me see the money. I assume Durabali knows what he's doing, but you know, he may or may not be an expert on the dragon. What happens if pawn takes pawn? We gotta ask this question first. I guess either bishop g7 or h5. h5, right? I assume h5. I mean, white's got this piece on the diagonal. It looks pretty strong. Like, knight h5 loses immediately. Rook h5 takes, queen g5, knight g6, queen g6. You know, I mean, this kind of thing is very, very simple. But he doesn't have to play that, right? Maybe black is something else here. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe black's just busted. Maybe he's just busted. Takes. It's just over, right? Queen g5. So any kind of takes on h5 is fatal. So he takes here. Queen takes. There's actually a game from 1975, one of Miles's contemporaries, Jonathan Mestel. I don't even know if he's still alive. I assume so. And now black takes on c3. Classic exchange sacrifice. But what is white threatening exactly here? Maybe... I'm not sure. Like, does white even have a threat in this position? Basically to take on h5 and like bring the rook to g1. I mean, is there possible knight f5? Possible knight d5? These are the ideas. Like rook g1, knight f5, knight d5 takes on h5. I'm just wondering, does black have to sack the exchange here? The engine suggests that you could delay it one move with queen a5. So this is the only other option. But he's basically going to do it. So as far as I remember, this may be a quick draw. So black plays rook takes c3, b takes c. Now queen a5, transposing. Castles queenside. There's only a handful of games where this position has been reached, and white has won none. It's a classic exchange sacrifice. It does look like white might have something, though. He's close. Queen takes c3. So it's been played by Miles in 79. Already. There's a threat of queen a1, queen d4 check. here. And now A5 classic threat of A4, played by Miles. But Durabali plays knight takes F3. So this is like a... This is just a blunder? Allowing queen takes G6 check? I don't know, what is he thinking here? Obviously it was holding G6, so Black's judgment must be, you know, he can afford to give him that pawn with check, he didn't care. I don't know. Like, okay, it's not game over. Queen takes G6 check, King H8. Queen H6 check. Your rook's hanging. So you can repeat with King G8. But honestly, no, that's a draw. So if you want to win, you have to play knight H7. Knight H7. Knight F3. Queen F3. And I don't know. What the hell's happening here? This doesn't look good for Black. Like, he just... No. So it looks like he just, like, blundered. Queen takes... He just blundered the queen takes G6 thing. But, I mean, this is a very specific position. David Gross, Volozhin. There's 4 real games here, spanning 1979 to 2008. Miles won, Grossar won with white, and then 2 draws. And that's just the top 4. Well, it's not a question that he didn't want to draw with 1800. Where's the draw? It's not a draw. Is it a draw? Is this a draw? G takes H5, A4, H takes G6, AB3, CB3, FG6, H5. There's a draw? G5. So there's a draw here with Kosanovich's black in 88. And a new game in, Queen G5 check, King H7. This is very complex. I mean, there's no way, like, a guy who's 1800 knows this line. And in fact, like, one of the 2 games this position was Black actually won. I mean, it's just, this just loses. It's just a blunder. Yeah. So now he should be happy to take a draw. White's totally winning. Threatening bishop takes, no, threatening rook F5. Defending F5. And now, look at this. Rook takes F5, E takes F5. Queen takes B7. This is very risky for white. So he plays too quickly, and this is a fast game, but it's not easy. This is not easy. The computer says it's winning, but you have to play, like, perfectly. Bishop E3 with the idea of Queen D5 and then, like, triple attacking G8. With 30 seconds left, how are you supposed to find that? You know, like, very few players would play this perfectly. Bishop G6. This king is kind of open without the bishop on B3. Now, any endgame is fine. And he left his king open. Wow. And Black had to take a draw here by repetition. Oof. This is literally a draw. Black actually won by time. after sacking his rook. All right, that's crazy, man. I mean, I don't want to play the dragon with black. I mean, it's not a good idea. The single most important reason not to play the dragon with black is that 1800 players know 30 moves of theory. You know, it was 3-0. I mean, if you play the dragon against a little kid who's rated like 1500, it's probably the opening that he's most likely to know. 30 moves. A lot of coaches do that. They teach little kids to memorize openings. I mean, it's really not a good way to teach. I think it's actually very stupid. But that's the way a lot of weaker coaches, especially, all they do is like pump their students full of like opening knowledge because they don't really understand chess. The coaches don't understand chess. So, their way of coaching is just like teaching little kids to memorize, 30 moves of theory. But I never was attracted to the dragon or the knight orc because it's all about like memorizing tons of theory, and this is just crazy. I mean, you don't want to be playing like against a 1600 and worrying about whether it's a forced draw on move 20 or not, I mean, that's just not a good idea. All right, Sumeher is up next, game 4. Yeah, I mean, the Dragon Yugoslav is the first opening most everyone learns. If you catch 2200 in main line of the Banco, he could play like a god. Well, I mean, it's not as bad as the Dragon. The Dragon is the #1 most popular opening to memorize, probably. It has a cool name, and it's interesting, Alright. But anyway, nice effort by Ripun there. M. Gorky versus Sumeher. Sumeher is black. The Sumerian. Yeah, I told a story how like 4 years ago I played this kid who was 2100 and he memorized like 20 plus moves of the Skaveningen. But he couldn't find his way out of a paper bag, like calculating 2-move combinations. So he ended up like drawing me from a totally winning position. He had like 3 forced wins. He memorized 20 moves of theory, get a winning position, and then can't calculate like 2 moves deep, And so it was a draw. I was like, this is crazy. I'm like walking around the tournament hall thinking, my God, I'm like lost against a little kid. And like 5 minutes later, we're agreeing to a draw. I escape with a half point. So I think, things like endgame, calculation, that's more important. Pastor Balash, I think. He's probably like, I don't know, a little older now. But at the time the kid was like 2100 and like 13 years old or something. It was funny. It was ridiculous. I mean, he literally couldn't see a forced win. Like several different forced wins. After I was like 1 move out of book with a losing move. And I'm like, oh my God. I can't believe I didn't lose. Here's another opening that everyone knows. The other little kid opening that you don't want to play. E4, C6, D4, D5, Knight C3, D6, E4, Knight takes E4, Bishop F5. Every little kid knows like 30 moves of theory in the classical Caro-Kann. It's definitely another good reason to play to play Knight F6. Though that's like really trendy now. Everybody knows this line with Bishop F5. Everyone knows like 25 moves of theory here. It's extremely, extremely popular. Extremely easy to memorize. Extremely many long lines. I think, if you like variations with tons of memorization, maybe the Bishop F5 classical Caro-Kann is its best. Maybe it's good. But still, if you're not into memorized opening moves, I think it's probably a bad choice. Because really, there's ridiculous amounts of theory here. 14,000 games. Alright, Knight G3. I know that Sumeher is not really a memorizing kind of guy, So I'm not sure it's a good choice for him. Bishop g6. You're here. I'm talking to you like you're not here, Sumaher. But I mean, seriously, if you want to play the Caro-Kann, you should give thought to other lines. Knight d7 or knight f6. Knight f6 very popular now. Bishop f5. Knight g3. Knight, now bishop there. Knight f3. Okay. I mean, the difference between knight f3 and h4... Obviously, there's many ways for white to play. But knight f3 is pretty obviously to try to drop this knight on e5. I mean, h4 is the critical move. The question really is, like, should white play h5 or not? You know, I think that's the major branching point here. A lot of people tend to feel like the pawn on h5 has a tendency to get weak. We're talking like 20, 25 moves down the line. Classical theory said like white was always supposed to push h5, but that's not necessarily true. All right, knight f3 in the game here. Black plays knight d7, stopping knight e5, which is not forced either. You know, another question. Another interesting idea is to play e6 and actually like encourage white to play something like knight e5 because it's not a big deal, you know. We don't really have to fear knight e5 necessarily. Spassky played knight f3 like against Karpov and other players. Spassky liked to do like nothing variations, for example, where he doesn't play h4. But if white doesn't play h4, he really can't play for a serious advantage, you know? That's the problem. I mean, there is no aggressive plan. There are other lines like, what, knight e2, knight h3, you know, these weird lines like bishop c4 with idea of knight e2. But at the end of the day, like, either you play h4 or you don't, you know. Knight f3, knight d7, you know. Schieberspieler said e6 exclam. Knight d7, h4, h6, and now I don't know if it's better to play h5 or not. White can play without h5 and keep the pawn back on h4. Or white can play h5 and have the pawn on h5 where it might get weak later on. That's the question. Is this a weakness or does the space, you know, really benefit white? I'm surprised here. Stockfish needs to go a little deeper. It was like black's better. I don't think so. Bishop h7. Now, the only move is bishop d3. It's unbelievable. Though this is kind of interesting. If you look at the opening explorer here, okay, just to show you guys how important like fashion is. 7,000 games with bishop d3 and almost no other games at all. But I mean, ultimately, this bishop is very strong. Yeah, most people play h5. I mean, the rook h4 is a variation. They can actually bring the rook up. It's an older line involving using that concept. Bishop d3 is normal. So bishop c4, I don't know. Like, the problem is, what is white going to do? What is this, you know, some sort of Johnny Hector thing? Where is white going to go? He's going to have to put his king on f1 or something here. Or he's going to castle kingside with his pawn on h5. I mean, I've seen people do that. But I don't think you can castle queenside with that bishop whistling past your head on h7, you know? That's like walking into machine gun fire. I mean, to me, it looks like if you're playing bishop c4, you're not castling queenside. And that's not usual. You know, this is played almost universally. So, you know, bishop d3, queen d3, and then there's all different variations. But bishop c4, wow. Like, people do that but usually not with h4, h5. I mean, Schieberspieler probably knows a lot more than me, but I studied this 30 years ago. I'll occasionally play it for black, but I don't know the theory a lot. e6, and now bishop f4. All right, this is a good square to control this diagonal. I mean, the problem for white, though, the other thing about bishop c4 is, first of all, you're not negating this bishop on h7, and secondly, you're getting in the way of the c pawn. So, what's white's plan to like break black's position? If you have no pawn break, what are you going to do? You don't have c4, d5. He's not going to break black's structure with a pawn. He doesn't have f4, f5. I mean, maybe, but how are you going to get it in? How are you going to play f4, f5 with your knight in f3? So bishop f4, a nice square for the bishop, but there's no plan, right? This is weak. The diagonal here is important. So I don't know. There's sometimes queen a5 check, sometimes queen b6. Do we have a tactic with queen b6 maybe? Hitting the b2? Like, for example, queen b6 castles kingside. I don't really like taking that pawn. But it might be possible. Material is Schieberspieler's favorite theme, for example. We'd be on c2. In the event of rook b1, we play like queen c3, hitting the bishop. But I mean, I don't want to get like mated. You know, like the best mate is when you get something like this, like castles, and then somehow you're going to get mated with like bishop a6 at some point, you know, that mate, whatever that's called. I don't think I want to castle queenside here with black. But I don't know. What do you think? Queen b6? Queen a5 check is good too. White has to play c3 or bishop d2. If bishop d2, queen c7, or queen b6. So I assume like c3. But I'm not sure about black's like developmental plan here. You could try like knight b6. Queen's a little weird. So that's my, I'm not sure. First we can play knight f6 and then think about it. That's what black did. White plays queen d2, and it appears he's trying to castle queenside. You know, at this point, white has no threats, really. You know, there's no pawn break, there's no d5, there's no tactics on the e-file. So, can we, like, start pushing our pawns or something? Like a5, anticipating him castling queenside? For example, this is a kind of obsession with me, but I like playing a5, a4, a3, b5, stuff like that. You know, there's safer moves. Probably queen b6, castles queenside. This looks reasonable. So long as white doesn't have way to attack f7. So he does play queen b6, castles queenside. And now I assume you should castle queenside. Counter castle queenside. Another interesting move at some point would be like bishop b4, provoking c3 when the wind is whistling by your ear. White also can get mated with bishop a3 down the line. But this move here gives the impression that black's planning on castling kingside. And I guess there's something a little bit weird about that. If bishop e4, white doesn't have to play c3, and he probably shouldn't. He has queen e2, he has queen e3. You know, these moves are better. But I mean, queen e3 allows knight d5, so maybe we'll cancel that. Queen here. You know, there are some dangerous ideas, like here. But I mean, I like bishop e4. It's more active. Or castle queenside. Once we play queen b6, what's our plan? You know, we don't have pawn pushes with like b5, a5. You can try to play a5 maybe. But it looks like black's going to castle kingside here. Now white plays knight e5. That's another reason to castle queenside. Because if you castle queenside, now knight e5 isn't as good. I mean, he can't take back with the pawn. And taking back with the pawn gives him a space advantage, and then that can be like problematic. So I think I like castling queenside. Let's see what the oracle says. It actually likes knight d5. This is certainly not a developing move, but I did mention the possibility of some tactics here. But I would definitely develop. Is castles queenside bad for some reason? Peter doesn't really like it. I think it's okay. Alright, here, knight e5, knight e5. Now if pawn takes, I guess we're alright, we just play knight d5. So what about bishop takes? Yeah, rook d8 is another idea. Maybe white should just play bishop takes. Actually, come to think of it. I mean, I'm not real thrilled about this bishop. There's like a mosquito in here. After knight d5, we're not happy about that bishop. Knight d5. It looks like black's just better. White's kind of overextended. I'm not thrilled about this. So he plays pawn takes, and then knight d5, and now bishop takes d5. Okay, and black has a great game. C takes. Yeah, I mean, it looks like this. This is more sensible. Pawn takes knight d5, black's better. Bishop d5, yeah, this is bad. The unopposed bishop from hell. And now black's threatening rook c8. Yeah, white had no clue. It's over. And now c3. Ugh. And bishop a3. It looks like we've got some threat. Bishop a3. Does white have a defense to that? Is there a win here? So you got queen takes b2. That's the threat. Queen takes b2. Queen takes b2. Rook takes c3 check, followed by bishop takes d2. And he missed it. So like Delver's suggestion of knight e2 allows nothing. Black would need something else. He would need another element in the position like d4. Black's like one, he's one move short of really crushing white here. So objectively, maybe bishop a3 is a mistake. I mean, there's nothing he can do. He's totally dead. I guess you should just castle. And now you're really threatening to do some damage. Bishop d3. Yeah, I mean, bishop d3. Bishop a3, knight e2, bishop d3. It's cute. It's cute, but he has this. I mean, black still doesn't have a threat. There's still no immediate threat. But I think black should just chill, you know, probably. And just castle. Complete the development. You know, now you're winning like 100 different ways. I mean, d4, bishop a3. There's no way he's getting out of this. You know, what's he going to do? Like, bishop takes h6? I mean, yeah, he's totally dead. So let's see what the computer says. I think he should just chill. The engine actually wants to play queen a5. I don't see what's wrong with castles, though. It's like +7. Plus 7.7. I think in principle, you know, that's the right idea. To play like Botvinnik. It helps us in that situation. This opens up the b5, b4. So that's the advantage of moving the queen. Yeah, I mean, white had no clue what he was doing. But this is a little too fancy, actually. Now he missed the threat. Check here, check here. Takes. We're up material. We're actually threatening mate in 1. He resigned. Basically, sort of Zuzwang. But I mean, he could play on here, right? It's kind of a weird moment to resign. You could still play like king e2, and you're down 2 pawns and an ending. It's not mate. All right, but instructive. You know, white cannot castle queenside. You know, if he doesn't play bishop d3. All right, this is Mule Skinner. Mule Skinner. Yeah, Halloween Frankenstein, Dracula, whatever. Dracula Frankenstein variation for Halloween. Guys, I'm going to actually... That's interesting. Halloween is on a Sunday, so we're going to be playing a simul on Halloween night. I have to go to Debrecen. I just realized my team has a match in Debrecen on Halloween. It's a really long trip. It's like a 2.5-hour car ride. I'm going to be tired when I play in Debrecen. That's Sunday. I don't know if I'll be back in time. Simon might have to start late or something. Probably will be around starting time. All right. Thanks, guys, for supporting the stream. I wish I could blow off the team game for the stream. We need more support financially. I'm not a full-time Twitch streamer. We've got Mule Skinner against Sakarp 6. Mule Skinner, a big believer in knight c3, e4, knight c3. He's an expert in the Grand Prix attack. I think he should branch out a bit, though. Knight c6, f4, g6, knight f3, and then this. And we've had many games. Mule Skinner is a player who I've played more than 200 games with on our stream. There are only a few of you out there that have played so many games against me. But Mule Skinner has not been around as much of late. So this particular position, I have played literally like 20 games against Mule Skinner from the black side. Knight d4, castles. There is a mosquito that needs to die in my office. I think it's a mosquito that's moving around a lot for a mosquito. Generally speaking, it could be a fly. Alright. Knight d4. So, what is black supposed to do after castles? Does anyone know? Raise your hand. It's up in the air. A6 looks like an interesting move. Played by Anand. But mostly I take. This player did not. There's a lot of interesting stuff. The other day I had a game in this. Knight b5. Is this thing biting me? Knight b5, knight b5. This is the game from the other day against someone on the stream. d5, e5. Is this right? I think I had this game. Yeah, a6, knight c3, bishop g4. And my opponent played... What did he play? a4? feel like it was this position. Was it d3? I really can't recall the exact move order now. All right. In any case, castles e6. Let's stop here. Now, Dr. Tripchance, you play the Grand Prix attack. I was under the impression that e6 was a mistake for black. Otherwise, you know, everyone and their brother would play this. Roman used to like this. e5 is one possibility. The other possibility is take, knight e2. Here we don't get any sort of knight b5. I remember this happening. Threatening d3 check. And then bishop d3. And then white has like a4, a5. So even Eugene played e6. So it's playable for black, but not very popular. I've never played e6. Interesting. Roman used to claim that knight h6 was a good move. He played that himself. But I've never really been able to make that work. I mean, the knight always seems to be like out of the game. It ends up having to go back to g8. I don't really get it. Alright. But I don't know. I mean, knight takes b5 seems fine for black. So e6, now e5, and now black just played a crazy looking move. f5. And apparently this was played, wow, by Paschall. Bisgeier versus Paul Benko, United States, 1980. 5 years before I started playing chess. 4 years before I started playing chess. Seriously. I mean, I know both of these guys. I played Bisgeier a couple times, and I knew Paul. But, sadly never got to play Benko. f5, something about this move feels wrong. You know, I mean, white has this major space advantage with the control of e5. And, I mean, it just looks wrong. You're not doing anything about e5. You're going to let him have that spatial wedge there on e5 for the rest of your life. I mean, that looks kind of crazy. If anything, I would think that black... Sorry. If anything, I would think that black would consider playing f6 to try to blow up the center. I started playing at the age of 3. Yeah, we know that I'm not really 39. Schieberspieler. But it's a good story. Anyways. f6. The problem is, like, with f6, white has such good control of e5, you don't really end up... I mean, maybe you could take on f3 and take e5, but I mean, the danger along the f file is so strong. So I don't like it. I don't like moving this pawn at all. It looks like a6 is sensible. You got to play for d6, really. Okay, e5, f5, and now white doesn't have access to the e4 square. That's the point. That's the big point. White's major threat was like go knight e4 and walk in. You know, so now he could take on f6, furthering black's development with knight takes, and that looks lame. So black allows white down to c5 pawn, but takes away the e4 square. Look at the opening explore here. Only 3 games, one of them Benko playing black against Bisgeier, 1980. The other one is a Milos Pavlovich game with white, which is interesting. He's also a grandmaster and a good player. A decent grandmaster. So what's the problem here? I mean, is it like you take on d4 and the d4 pawn gets weak? White needs to find a good move. But I imagine he has choices. I mean, you could play like a4 or something. What is black's threat? You know, I mean, ultimately, to play g5, to play b6 and like put his white square bishop on this diagonal, that would be nice. Bishop d3 was played by Pavlovich. He's basically like threatening to play knight takes d4 now and go into b5. Black played d6. Let's see how this game went. E takes d6, queen d6, knight b5, knight b5, bishop check, bishop d7, take, take. So Pavlovich played it in like a very simple way. Got a very straightforward position where black is like backward on the e file. But I'm not sure if that's best. You know, I mean, it looks like somehow white could play more aggressively. Obviously, like, you could play knight takes right away, and this is what Bisgeier did. Take, knight e2, queen b6, bishop d3. And now the idea is a4, a5. And then stuff with b4. b4, bishop a3, wing gambit style stuff here. Bisgeier drew, and some other guy lost. But look who's playing black. It was 24-83. Staniszewski is a grandmaster as well, I think, from FIROM. Yeah, I don't know, man. This is interesting. Is this really the best way for white to play? Wow. Stockfish is not down with either of these moves. It's starting to come around to my way of thinking, though. It likes a4 a little bit. I think a4 is interesting. Kind of getting a grip on the position. The other moves were d3, very mild-mannered move, and the strange bishop a4, which like almost nobody would find. So this is I don't know, you know, objectively. Bishop c4, probably okay. An interesting idea. This is oversharing, but any Grand Prix in which black plays e6 is extremely annoying to fight against. So now d5. Dude, that doesn't seem right. He just put his bishop here on this diagonal, and you're going to play d5? Let him take on d6? I feel like black would be happy that that diagonal was closed right now. If I were black, I mean, I'm a little worried about knight b5. That's not a problem, right? There's knight takes d4, knight b5, though. I mean, this might be a serious threat. So, I mean, a6 is totally okay. Absolutely normal move, right? That's why one of the reasons why I wanted to play a4 in the first place. I mean, we're taking en passant. So this diagonal. Now, black doesn't have to take. Newsflash. But this file I don't like, and I don't like this diagonal. There are things I do like about black's position. The excellent control of d4, right? The fact that white can't use the e4 square. Delver Flips. Tier 1 sub to STC 1129. Thank you. Thank you very much for your generous gift sub. We had a donation from Nils earlier today. Guys, please support the stream. I try to make it educational. This is not about, you know, playing bullet chess and trying to look cool. I really love chess, and I try to share my knowledge with the viewers. Um, my gut instinct here, without using the engine, is that it's close. But black's king is in the center of the board. Opening it up is risky. Queen d6, d3, knight b5 like Pavlovich. What would Pavlovich do? You know, he probably would play knight b5 again. Astrobate, thank you. I can look cool and teach at the same time, which I do every day. So knight b5 is interesting. d3 is okay, I guess. Knight f6. He takes. Yeah, knight f6 is kind of weird in a way, because you're blocking your bishop, right? No matter what happens here, there's danger for both sides. But you know, you got to consider all the options. Knight e7, knight h6, and knight f6. I joke about this. Mule Skinner is not the person I joke about. It's Morales, another Grand Prix attack. Well, actually, he plays the closed Sicilian as well. He's always all about e5. Here we see e5 again in action. Knight f6, knight takes d4. I mean, pawn takes has to be considered. What's happening after pawn takes? We're driven back. Z Web Chess analysis for the subscribers, but usually I like to get the games a little bit before the stream. Husky has a game. Where's Husky's game? Husky, I didn't put your game in the stream. That's weird. It's in there, right? Why is Husky's game not in the Did I put it in the wrong place? Yeah, I know. Husky, where's your game? I thought I put it in the study. That's weird. Would have sworn I did. Knight takes d4, so pawn takes is interesting. Queen takes better strategically. King h1. Castles. Now this pawn looks weak, so I expected queen e2. If I'm black, I mean, you got to be willing to maybe sacrifice the pawn on e6 for activity. This freezes black's development. Queen f3, a6. Looks slow. Bishop e3, queen d6, and now a4. White's playing in a very strategic way. Maybe black could sack the pawn on b7. Bishop d7, queen b7. This has got to be considered. Thanks, Telver. Queen takes b7. Is that queen alright? You know? We're dropping b2, but the guy gets trapped. No, it doesn't, because it can't take, because of this hanging. Alright. So you play bishop c6, and then you drop b2. Here, 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 here. It's a very complicated position, man. Black looks very active here. Look at these bishops. I don't like this. I'm not taking that pawn on b7 if I'm white. This is starting to look creepy. Honestly, you know, queen f3, a6. Maybe bishop e3 is alright, but maybe we could consider like h3. Seriously? Taking away g4? I mean, that's a serious threat. You know, I don't like the knight getting in there. I mean, h3 also weakens our king side, though, ultimately, so it could backfire. But I think that is a safe move. I mean, again, bishop d7 can be played as sacrifice, though. Possibly. But, you know, when you play bishop e3 here for white, you leave b2 weak. You know, so the moment you play bishop e3, now the b2 pawn's unprotected. Maybe we don't want to do that so quickly. You know, so maybe h3 is better. Bishop e3, queen d6. Again, h3, preventing knight g4. Looks like a reasonable move. That's very annoying, you know. Alright, he plays this. Now black plays king h8, kind of a standard prophylactic move. Rook d1. I'm not crazy about this. I still think h3 should be played at some point. Thanks for subscribing, Z Web Chess. Got a flat out subscriber. Appreciate it. Astrobate, thank you for 100 bits. Husky, I thought I submitted your game, but if not, I'll just put it in there next. Yeah, I mean, rook d1 is surprising. You know, it looks like white wants pressure here. So now he's playing rook d1. He's going to play d4 himself. Rook a7. This move is horrifying. I don't know, man. I mean, what about knight g4? What is going on here? White refused to play h3. So now knight g4, hitting your bishop. What are you going to do? Bishop g1. Now black has good control of d4. Rather than playing the insane rook a7, I mean, black might be able to play some kind of sensible move. There's a lot of things here that make me nervous, like e5. I'm not real happy about e5. I'm not sure I like this. Yeah, your game is on the list, but it's not in the study. I've got you on the list. We've got a few games left. I don't think I'm going to have time for any more additional games at this point. But anyways, like, this is nuts. Knight g4 is a good move, right? Why is knight g4 not a good move? Bishop g1, e5? That is surprising. So it's just not enough development. Wow. White's still clearly better here. Because that queenside is frozen with a rook. I thought that black was getting out of this. But even this, white's still better. I don't know that that could be the move, though. Queen d5 or something. Something like this pawn is going to fall on c5. Interesting. So black's threats are not as dangerous as I thought. This is crazy. I mean, you're like walking into b4, d4, whatever. You can't put the rook on that diagonal. Rook a7 was insane. b6, and now he's just lost. Yeah. He's just lost. I mean, rook a7 was crazy. So let's go back to rook a7. After a4, he should have played bishop d7, sacking the b7. You got to be dynamic. White has no way to pressurize this with his queen on b7. There's counterplay here. So again, this is very dangerous. There you have queen b6, and then knight d7. I mean, do you want your queen on a5? Actually, that loses a queen. So never mind. Yeah, you just lose a queen. It's cool. There's something like that doesn't work. Yeah, you can't even take the pawn. It's not even a pawn sack. Even if it was, though, I wouldn't like white losing coordination and grabbing this pawn on b7. Black was okay. This was unnecessary, and this is insane. And now white just wins. So d4, you're toast immediately. I mean, even this is bad. But I guess there, like, your knight is hanging on c3. There might be something for white. I don't know. For black, I don't know. Yeah, this is terrible. And now the rook is... Alright, so what are you going to do? If you take bishop takes d4, resigns. So he plays this, and this is hopeless. It's just hopeless. Look at that. That's ridiculous. Rook's there. Nice file. It's almost connect 8, but you need like one more piece on f2. It's the closedest file ever. Yeah, this is just a massacre. Although I don't like f2 because of knight g4. Probably a different square. Now finally h3. Black corrected the rooks. But I mean, black's totally lost. I like this formation on the queen side. Yeah, I mean, it's totally not necessary to mate. You're just winning on the queen side. He ended up giving back material, but there's nothing you can do about those pawns. And it's over. It was never a question. Like, White was always winning this game. Even though it looked a little weird toward the end. He was very hesitant here, I guess, in time pressure. And it's over. I mean, Mule Skinner does have a tendency to get in time pressure and sometimes like throw away good positions, but I don't think this ever got out of control. Thanks, Schieberspieler. Good to see you. See you on Sunday. I do simul on Sundays, and I also have a tournament game this weekend. It's just going to be a tough Sunday. Okay. Having said that, let's go to Husky. We've got 3 games left. Husky, Dr. T, and Husky, Dr. T, and Move 11. Thank you guys for supporting the stream, though. We've had a number of subscriptions today. Some bit donations from Mr. Coffee and Asterbait. Try to keep it serious. Right. Dr. Trip Chance. So here we go. Trader. This is Trader 2-2. What's the time control? 1 minute. He played with 1 minute. I try to stay away from bullet. We'll just pretend it's a normal game. F3. Fantasy Caro-Kann. I think this is no, I don't have time for any more games. We have 3 more. And only from subscribers, Mumlu. If you'd like to subscribe, you can get in a game next week. So F3 is good practical line. Not as much theory as other variations. I think it's still a lot of games. If you look, there's almost 2,000 games in the Master Opening Explorer. But still, compared to other variations, there's less theory here. So there's still some room for exploration. And people don't know everything, so it catches people off guard. You know, I was talking earlier how every 3-year-old knows like 30 moves of theory in the classical Caro-Kann. That is not the case here. You know, when you play F3, experienced players know what to do, but the intermediate and beginners are like, what is that? You know, I've never seen that before. So F3 is a good practical try at all levels. But you have to be careful, obviously, about, you know, it's maybe not a good example for a beginner. I mean, Ben Feingold has all these stupid comments about F3 and F6 or whatever. But it's really not a good idea for absolute beginners to make this move. All right. D takes E4. Now you could play like a gambit or something, but the main point is this. You know, I don't think that D takes E4 is a great line for black. There are new ideas with like Queen B6. Trying to take advantage of this diagonal. Even E5 is an interesting gambit. The idea is that we want to try to expose white, you know, in some way. Look at the gambit with E5. We expose white's weaknesses on this diagonal or this diagonal. Asterbait gifts up to Mumlu. Thank you, Asterbait. Mumlu can submit a game for next week if he likes. If you guys want to submit a game for the stream, the best thing to do is send it to my account here on lichess, which is Sparkle Horse. You can see the one I'm using. I don't know if you can see it because it's not up in the right-hand corner. You actually don't see that. So, Sparkle Horse on lichess. It says it at the bottom of the screen. But that's the account I play on here. Anyway, those are interesting lines. The problem with this is what I was saying to Asterbait earlier today. See, the problem here, when you play this move, is that you're trading off the strongest point in your position. With D5 gone, white's happy. You just gave away the strong point in black's position. There's a reason why black's doing this, but I'm just saying, you know, the Caro-Kann is like C6, D5, build up a strong point in the center, and you're going to turn around and trade it off. for an f3 pawn. Black's literally trading his strongest point for this f3. Is that a good exchange? Not really. I've never liked this line with d takes e. Another good move for black that's very solid is e6. e6 is extremely solid. It's a little bit passive, however. Alright, we don't give up our strong point. Easy. He takes, white plays takes, black plays e5. This is the main line. Now this is more like an e4, e5 position than a Caro-Kann. There's another reason why I think I don't really like it here. The queen b6 line looks okay. That's very trendy at the moment. But I prefer to play e6 usually. So takes, e5, knight f3, and then black plays bishop g4. The problem is if takes, bishop c4, and it's like a crazy open game where f7 is very weak. So this is a trappy and dangerous variation. However, like bishop g4, you know, that's black's, it's a pretty important piece, let's say. You know, if he trades off the white square bishop, he's going to have a big problem on the white squares. So I call it like basically like a bluff. Black plays this move, but he doesn't really want to trade it off. Bishop c4, and now knight d7 developing. Castles, knight f6, d takes e5. Wow. How does this work? So you're supposed to play c3. Keep the fluid center. I mean, like, the point is, like, d takes e5, knight takes e5, queen takes d8 check, and we win a piece, right? You can't do this. So I'm just taking. So black needs another move. After d takes e5, there's queen b6 check. In between move, and on king h1, he can recapture because this allows this, and white doesn't have some kind of crazy mate or something. I've never seen this line before, and Dr. Chipchance maybe hadn't either. But clearly, like c3, this is not possible because of f7. So you just keep the tension, and then black keeps the tension, and white is slightly better because of the center. I mean, I think white has to be slightly better. Alright, that's what should happen. But instead he plays this. Black plays check, king h1, knight takes e5, and now you can't lose your queen. So he just makes a move. Just keeping the tension. I mean, obviously you could play this. This happened in a game, looks like Argentina, 2013. But I mean, this is way more passive. You're keeping the bishop on the diagonal with bishop e3. So black has rook d8, taking the d file. But white, you know, what? It's interesting. White has the pawn on e4, queen e2. You don't care about double pawns. That'll help your structure. So it's interesting. What does black do to follow up? This guy played bishop c5 in another game. I think I played through this when you sent me the game because it looks familiar to me now, Dr. Tripchance. I must have scrolled through it before and then forgotten about it. It seems very familiar to me now. I definitely played through it and then I forgot to put it in the last stream or two. Because now I recall. I mean, it's interesting. Like what I was saying, you can't give up your white square bishop. Does he do that? Yeah. I mean, this is horrible for black. Not yet, but it will be. Bishop c5. He plays rook d8. His king is still in the center. Hello. Rook d8, queen e2. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute. Black's not really doing that great, is he? Black doesn't seem to have any real threats. White remains with a strong pawn in the center. So black has to be very careful here. I guess bishop e7, right? Then bishop e3, or what do we do? I mean, I think bishop e7 looks safest. There might be other moves. You could play bishop c5 if you want to, but I don't see the point. It looks like white's better. You know, that's what I'm trying to get to. Because you have this powerful pawn on e4. So he plays this unthinkable move. This is a disaster. You gave up your white squared bishop, black did. And what do you get for it? You like connect white's pawns? Are you serious? This is like double question mark positional blunder. Bishop takes f3, fixing white's structure, making them mobile, and then like not having a white square bishop to defend all the weak squares on white. It's a complete. You might as well just resign. I mean, h5 for black, that's kind of crazy, but better than what he did. Yeah, you can do h5. Yeah, sure. h5, bishop e7. He has a better structure. You have an isolated pawn, and it's kind of tricky to play that. But I still feel like your center is strong. You know, white's a little better. See what the computer says. Yeah, someone suggested bishop f4. So it's deceptive. White's better because control of the center. I mean, the pawn in the center, especially. And ultimately, his king is pretty safe, but black's king is chilling in the middle of the board. But this is crazy, man. Bishop takes f3. So this is nice. f4, it's over. And then he just rolls with the pawns. e5, f5. And I mean, f6 is gotta be good. Yeah. And black is just getting crushed. You can't attack the white squares. I mean, he can't attack your white squares. Your king is on a white square diagonal. Wow, I just did that. Sorry about that. You might want to adjust your glasses after that last. I just like picked up the board by accident. Nothing black can do on the white squares. So this is really beautiful. e6, knight f6, takes, check. And then he had a really sick combination. Rook takes f6 with bishop h6 mate. Really elegant. And this is in a 1 minute game. Knight c3 just developing. Here. Bishop g5, and that's insane. Now it's really insane. Queen e2, knight e2. You can't take here. Where's the mate? If takes, you just play bishop f6 and you're on 2 rooks. Is that it? There's no mate, right? Like bishop here. I mean, king e7, he's sort of staying alive there. I would assume you just like win a whole rook. 1 rook, 2 rooks. Something like that. It was a great game. Yeah. Insane. So instead what happened was he played knight g6 and now he sacks his rook. He's winning the rook there. No, it's not a sack. I mean, you're just winning material. But instead of taking the rook, which is winning, right, he plays for mate. There's mate with knight g6. Now black has to play rook h6. The only thing I'm not understanding here wait, this is the position, right? Knight f4, threatening mate, and he plays this. Oh, you missed mate in 1. You actually missed mate in 1? With knight takes g6? Or you were like torturing your opponent? You did this to like tease him or something? Because he still has rook h6 now. Oh, it's mate anyway. So you were just like trolling him? I thought you were trolling him. Because this creates a new mate threat with knight e6. If rook h6, knight e6. So he has defenses now though, like bishop f6 or whatever. That's not a defense. He has a multiple checks, right? Like rook h2 or something. Anyway, good game, man. It was cool. It was cool. You played rook f1. And black timed out. In the actual game. I think I added these moves. Alright. Next game. That was amazing. Mr. T. Mr. T's in. I gotta do Husky. Husky's game I thought I put in the study. Really weird. I would swear I put it in. I must have put it in the wrong study by accident. Very strange. Alright. Odd. I had to have put it in the wrong place. Now it's in. This is Husky with black. Oh, you played a simul? Wow. In Crete? ST Brown just played a simul in Crete. Was last player standing. Wow. He hurried you. I don't get to do that to my opponents. Nice job. Hanging tough against the GM in a simul. So e4, c5, knight f3, d6. You played the Najdorf. His opponent here, regular from our stream as well, plays a lot of... Husky, you don't know Mickey, right? It just happens that you're from neighboring countries. It's just a coincidence, right? Mickey lives in Slovenia, and Husky's in Austria. It's a sheer coincidence that you're neighbors. So a6, a4. Kamsky plays a4 a lot. I've tried this a little bit. I like this move. It sort of stays out of like mainline theory or transposes to the Scheveningen. As always, e5 is probably the strongest. No, I gotta go after this next two games, ST Brown. Alright. Knight f3. You can always subscribe and submit the game for next week. e5, knight f3. So, obviously, like, knight b3 is a normal move as well. You know, black can play e6. Kamsky has this cool move he did, a5. Was it this? Yeah, Kamsky Fedoseev. He lost one. But he has a beautiful game. He won that 2014. I can't remember now. Was it this? Kamsky Topalov. Kamsky has another game. It's not in here. Strange. Goddess played this a lot. Yeah, I played it once against Dr. Tripchance. I'm just trying to remember. Well, where's the game that I did a video on some years ago? It wasn't his game against Fedoseev. It was a5. Where the hell is the game? Black didn't play knight takes a5. Black took it. Oh, here it is. Yeah. So this is an awesome game if you guys ever want to go over that. Kamsky versus Salam Salah from 2016. I think it was an Aeroflot. Black tried to take the pawn on a5, and like lost a lot of time. It was a brilliant, brilliant game by Gata. That's actually really nice. I would recommend checking that game out. Anyways, so a4 e5 is really concrete, you know. I mean, I think this is the best move, almost in all variations. But it's not everybody likes having like a weak d5 square. Knight f3. So this could also transpose. Maybe if white plays like bishop e3 later, it'll transpose to a bishop e3 variation. You can play bishop e6. I don't know what the deal is with that. You know, this is often like people think, oh, this is bad. I'm not sure this is always bad for black. I've had a lot of games with people. You can like let white take on e6 and the position is still okay. Here, take. I'm not convinced that this is necessarily bad for black. Because the white, you know, the white squares are maintained by that pawn on e6. It should be analyzed more. I had some other weird games. Queen c7, right? Is possible. Kind of not committing yourself to like one or the other. And then finally, there's h6, preventing bishop g5 and knight g5 at all costs, but weakening black's king side. I actually had a game with World Loser where I did like bishop c4 and knight h4 later on. There's a Paschall game. But anyways, knight f3. Okay, this is main line. Bishop c4 is definitely main line. You want to clamp down on d5. And I mean, you're not worried about bishop g4. I think that's kind of anti-positional. Again, a bluff. Black can't afford to give away his white square bishop. So bishop c4, this is not necessary. This is passive. It's playable, but it's like a transposition to some sort of semi-passive bishop e2. Castle, castle, bishop e6. And now you see the variation here. I mean, there's no wins for white in these like 5 games because it's just too passive. Normally in bishop e2 lines, we would retreat the knight back to b3. I mean, I admit it's probably hard for black to win here, but he's definitely equal. Now white played knight g5. And again, I think you can give that up. So knight c6 or something, it should be fine. Take. This is no problem. You know, you just defend it. You can even play like bishop d8 later on. I imagine that black is fine. I mean, there's weird lines like this or something, but I mean, you know, you're gonna get in trouble probably if you're white here. So that's really not a big deal. But this is interesting to transfer here. That's what you did. Okay. And now knight d5 doesn't work because the knight's hanging. So white plays knight d5 anyway. I'm not getting it. Wait, I don't understand. Like, don't you have just knight takes d5 here? You're winning his knight, so he has to play pawn takes. And then you play bishop takes g5, but you're winning a pawn, right? I mean, this is like a no-brainer, but you might even have this supporting d5. You're going to lose d6 here. Okay, so this is a problem. Take. This is a problem. So you have to play dc6, threatening this. Bishop takes c1, pawn takes. That's unclear. Probably white's better here. Rook a7, queen c1, rook b7. Looks like a better endgame for white. Wow. Like pawn takes pawn. Huh. White has to calculate this. Knight takes, pawn takes. Then again, he might, you know, maybe you just like go back, right? You could play anything here. Bishop d7, bishop e8. You can freaking play bishop a4 if you want to. I mean, I don't know. But anyway, I don't know. It doesn't look right to me. You know, I don't think this works for him. I mean, does he have some weird move like queen h5? No. He has to take back. So you take on g5. This is forced. He takes here. You just take back with the knight. You drop d6. So your only chance is to do the weird thing. And then he takes, and you have to go there. I see. So this is basically forced. And this ending is better for white. Definitely. That's crazy. So you played h6. And he chops your bishop. That's fine. We're winning. Wow. That was weird. So h6, very well, you know, judged decision. And now white's just like busted. Yeah, he has tactics like that. Like knight h7 or whatever. Yeah, bishop a4 probably doesn't work. I'm just throwing things out there. This is crazy though. I mean, he thought all this through, probably. Plays knight d5 and then you just like play h6 and he's just losing a pawn. Not very well planned out by white. You know, he's got that. So knight e7, queen e7, and it's just, he's desperate here. I mean, he's lost after knight f3. He's clear pawn down with no compensation. He does have the bishop pair, but I don't think it's close to enough. You know, like, whatever. Bishop takes, bishop e3, and you're clear pawn up. It's not real compensation. So he tries this instead. That's like the classic like beginner. That's the classic beginner exchange. Knight takes f7. Maybe he's right. Maybe that's objectively the best try. But it's classic. I thought you would take with the king. No brainer. Saying that a lot today. I don't know what's up with me, but because I don't normally say that. But yeah, I'm not feeling so generous about giving him my d6 pawn. Maybe you're going to have to ultimately. I guess you're not clearly winning that easily. Like after king f7, f3. I mean, you've got... The computer's going to freak out here, man. Like, I swear. This is the position, the typical position where you take Stockfish and you're like, okay, Stockfish, what's the evaluation? Is white better by like 0.1? Or is black better by 0.1? And it's going to be like, black is better by 2.5, you know? This is the kind of crazy thing it does. It's going to say black has a massive advantage here of like at least 2 pawns. In a position that looks like, well, you know, I thought maybe it was equal or white is a little better. Let's see. I wouldn't be surprised if yeah, you see? It does it every time. It's better by black by 2.5, you know? You add it up. You're like, okay, white has a rook and a pawn, and black has 2 knights. So the beginner goes and does the math, and they're like, oh, okay, it's equal. That adds up to 6. 3 plus 3 equals 6. No. Black is better by 2 point something. I told you. This was exactly what I knew it was going to do. King takes, and it's a winning, it's like a virtually winning position. I agree it's not so easy. You know, it's definitely not so easy. Even human grandmasters wouldn't evaluate it that high. I think that most GMs would be like, well, yeah, black's better by like a pawn. You know, really, really generous would be like 1.5. Yeah, the computer clearly wanted to blow it open with d5. It's a huge component of the position of the opposite color bishops. Black's going to go postal with the bishop and the 2 knights on the white squares and try to like blow you out, probably. With crazy aggressive play. With the 2 knights and the bishop and getting in d5. Yeah, I imagine if white had one more move with like c4, he would be almost alright. But I'm sure that even if you stop d5, black would still be better by 1.5 pawns. Anyway, I was surprised you took with the queen. And now, frankly, my dear Sherlock, I think white should eat this pawn, man. Because that's, the end of your pawn structure, too. I mean, after queen takes d6, yeah, you have some mating threats, for sure. I mean, maybe it's worse than I thought. But, I mean, I don't see how we're going to mate him that easily. Knight g5 gets hacked off. It would be nice if we could play, like, knight g5, knight h3, and mate or something. But how are we going to get our knight, to f3 to checkmate this guy? It's not that easy. But probably, yeah, it looks pretty good, actually. I mean, this looks... Look at that. With those minor pieces on the white squares, white's not going to survive. That was quite a judgment. I would have been, like, taking with the king. Is it possible, like, queen takes is stronger? Wow. It's close. Yeah, I never would have considered it. I would have definitely, like, been greedy and taken with the king. This is an interesting decision. After queen takes d6. He doesn't do it, though. He doesn't do it. He was afraid. So he played f3. Okay, sensible move. Now best, d5. Takes, bishop e3. And now an interesting positional move by black. Even I wouldn't play this. I mean, this is like... I don't know if it's good, but it's extremely deep. Black played a5. Fixing the pawns on the right colors, like, essentially. I mean, I don't think I would do that. It looks like you should probably just develop. a5 is an amazingly slow move. I mean, are you intending this, or is this a thought to play rook a6 and come across? Because that's pretty insane. That's a deep move to play. I would never take time out for that move there. That's really... You didn't want him, but, I don't think it matters. I mean, I think you're just so much better. He doesn't probably even have time for this type of stuff. I mean, I see what you mean. You didn't want him to come here. If rook d8, I guess bishop b6. Or something like that. It could be kind of annoying. So this looks kind of slow. The only move I didn't like from you, knight c6 and now c4. Yeah, that's ugly. I mean, it's gonna come back to haunt him playing c4. Because you just pop back here and over f5, and later you'll be eating those pawns. I mean, I'm not sure if this is good though. He's got the d file. I feel like you should be playing for mate. I mean, e4. Wonder if this works. We don't really want to, like, just trade rooks on open file, Yeah, computer wants to play rook e8. But I think you're making a mistake if you swap rooks with him. Like, the classic advice when you have two pieces for the rook is to avoid the exchange of rooks. His rooks are redundant, like in this position right now. I mean, he has the Aster mate maneuver. But I feel like, he can't really use both rooks. If you don't swap rooks on the open file, his rooks aren't really that useful. Your minor pieces are more useful than his rooks. So I feel like swapping rooks is a mistake. You actually played rook e8 and then played rook e8 and you changed your mind. He might have played the wrong rook. Queen f2 and now e4. It looks dangerous. So he takes, and yeah, I mean, I don't really want to swap queens. So I think here this is better to keep queens on. You should trade queens on your terms. You have very strong attacking chances against his king with the white squares. So this is probably an accuracy. Takes, takes, king takes. The computer probably says black's winning here, but I don't think it's easy. G5's good. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, we don't really want to swap rooks. But I don't know what choices you have here. He's threatening, what, this? You probably avoid the exchange of rooks here somehow. I mean, he should take, and then take on a5. It looks like he's hanging on. You know, he was always worse. But it looks like he's alive now. But what happens here? Can you avoid this exchange of rooks? Yeah. You want to avoid this exchange of rooks, I think. Larry Kaufman, what? Rook versus rook goes up. It says rook value goes up by 0.15 if you have only one. So now you're losing the A pawn for the D pawn, but you didn't do that. You got the B pawn. I suspect it's a draw. I mean, the engine says it's a draw, but I would have thought the same. There's just not enough pawns left. In fact, you could lose this. You really need to round up this D5 pawn. You know, I'm not sure who's playing for a win now. Maybe White's playing for the win now. Ooh, that's a problem. He's going to lose that. He has rook e3. But it looks like this is finally falling. He could theoretically... I mean, it's insane, but he could theoretically lose. It's like Karpov-Korchnoi game where he got mated. That was a little different. Man. Yeah, the mate in the corner. So I assume you submitted this game for a reason. It looks like White's actually going to lose it. Yeah. It's probably a draw now, right? If he sacks on h3. Rook takes h3. Knight takes h3. King h3. It's a draw. Right? It's not a draw? Oh my god. What? Wow. It's not a draw. I thought this pawn was going to fall, but no. Knight f4. Wow. King g4 and h3. I thought he could sack the rook there. He's totally lost now. That's crazy. So it was just like crazy time pressure. You managed to keep the last pawn, and he gets that one. I mean, obviously, this is insane. Rook takes, king takes. Yeah, it's probably a draw now. He just needs to sack the rook on g5. So rook h7 or here. You have no checks. You can't mate with the two knights. So it's a draw. So the best move is rook h7. Yeah. Of course, you can try and you can flag him or something. This is crazy. It's a draw. All right. All right, Mr. Coffee, what's up? All right, last game, move 11. No, this is a friendly tournament, but I didn't expect the game to end in a draw. Very few people submit draws, and this was a rather spectacular draw, but a rather, interesting draw. But I was expecting you to win. It started to come back your way there. I don't like to look at the results before I analyze the games. It sort of takes the fun out of it. Surprised me. Anyway, yeah, interesting game. Last game, move 11. Wasn't that right? Yeah. All right, move 11. Can I get this game? Show me. This was a game I've seen or not? Move 11. What's the background here? This is against Mate Bagi, or Bagi Mate, if you're saying it like a Hungarian. Move 11 just gifted tier 1 sub to James Brilliancy. So, thank you for that. This is a training game. Move 11 played against an IM from here, from Hungary. Bagi Mate. Matthew Bagi, in English. He's a good player, like a high-rated IM. Alright, so Mate's playing white, and move 11 is black. It's a Rossalimo. Knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, e6. Guys, I gotta go. It's late. We're gonna be back tomorrow morning, but we're gonna take a look here. So, number one move seems to be castles, but this is a very forcing continuation. Obviously, white damages the pawn structure. I'll be honest with you, from what I've heard about, Mate, I mean, he seems like he's a decent player strategically, but he's seemingly like a very strong player tactically, attacking sharp positions. I think you're not unhappy to face a player who's stronger in tactics and sharp positions here. I mean, this is a very strategic line with bishop takes c6. I imagine it can get very tactical, but basically I would really, really fear extremely, top-notch strategic players in this position. There's some players that are surprising, like Nesbedinov played the Rossalimo. I mean, I think that's kind of weird, but he also played e4, e5 with black, so I thought, and the Queen's Gambit Klein. You would think Nesbedinov would have specialized in only the open Sicilian, but he played both. It's more strategic. It's not really trying to open the game for a tactical position. Anyways, and particularly this move, trading a dynamic bishop early on for bishop takes c6. So, I don't know. I think there's lots of players who probably wouldn't agree bishop takes c6 is best. But it's a matter of style, I will say this. It's not the Roy Lopez, and probably it's a little more justified here than the exchange Roy. Bishop takes c6, b takes c. D takes c is just bad. This is not a variation. bc. The problem is you have no bishop after this. White will play e5 or something like that, and this will just get blocked in. You need control of the e5 so you can get your bishop out in some way. The idea here is that eventually this bishop can get out. Fedorovich calls it the pawn wall, so he would play this with black. Knight e7, f6, knight g6, and then eventually the idea is that you can somehow down the line play d6 and your bishop will live, later on. You don't have to have a dead bishop for the rest of the game. You said what? You're out of book now. You're out of book now. It's early to be out of book. b3 is interesting. I was looking at some games with d3. That move to me looks, I looked at this. Knight e7, queen e2, knight g6, and h4. This is very crazy, I mean, it's really, really strange. Black now has to play h5. This is a very alien type of position. I don't think that I would like this. So objectively, I don't know what I would do. Let's see. D3 was his choice, and you improvised Queen C7. Kind of like you're thinking about playing E5, tempo down. So check this out. Castles, Queen E2, or E5. If black's allowed to play E5, you know, this bishop will live. But anyway, it's a tempo down, so I don't know. I'm just saying, I don't think your opponent is a specialist on the white side of the Roslimo. I could be wrong. You know, I'm going to guess he's not. E5, sorry, E5, committal, but, you know, the idea is to kill your bishop on C8. One problem is that his bishop is bad, you know, in respect to these pawns. But guess what? You know, that's the bad news. The good news is that his bad bishop is better than your bad bishop by a long shot. So you have to play F6 in order to trade off this pawn on E5. Yeah. You have to play F6 in order to trade off his pawn on E5 in order to play D6 in order for your bishop to breathe again. But obviously, you play Queen C7, it's a little slow. So here, bishop F4 takes, knight takes, threatening Queen H5 check. If D6, Queen H5 check, G6, knight takes knight takes G6, Queen F7. This is an actual game. Why am I not surprised? This is an actual game. Notice the knight is taking away the knight's retreat back to F4, which would defend the queen. Queen F3 hitting C6. Queen G6, Queen takes C6 check, King D8. And this is Cheshkovsky versus Komarov, 1997. Wei went on to win. Wow. Yeah, I'm not sure who's fooling who here, but it looks bad. All right. So it doesn't quite work out. Interestingly, like, this move is mainline after F6. You know the right idea, though. You're supposed to play F6. Maybe you can wait and play like knight G7 and knight G6. You know, that's the thing. You can play F6 anytime, so you can play this first. You played knight E7 first. He plays knight D2. You played knight D5, so that's not what I expected. We anticipated you were going to play knight G6 with the idea of putting more pressure on the E5 pawn. Presumably, like, he could start with the H4 type of stuff. But not just yet, because this is hanging. So he has to play either this. I was looking at stuff like this. But you have bishop A6. So I wasn't sure, you know, what is he doing about this pawn here? You know, and you really don't want, he doesn't want to let you to take that. You could, though. Like, this is interesting. Yeah, you have no bad bishop, but now what? Now all of a sudden this sucks. And he's got sort of frontal pressure. So white's still better. Even though you got rid of your bad bishop, he's still better. Maybe not you're lost, but you're worse. You know, so that's interesting. But I didn't expect you to play knight D5. I'm not sure this gels with the rest of your position. It's a nice knight on D5 for what it's worth. That was different. That was bishop takes C4. I gave up my white square bishop for a knight against Tracek. But it was a King's Indian attack. It was a very different structure. Yeah. That was like my bishop on E6 takes bishop takes C4 in a King's Indian attack. But I mean, you're happy to get rid of this bishop here, you know. But I don't get it. Like, I thought either here, you know, I mean, knight F5 is interesting too, maybe. but this still doesn't solve your problem. But somehow this seems more logical to put pressure on e5. You know, I think he would go here. And again, like, get rid of that bishop, please, but you really need to play f6. And if you're going to do that, then why play bishop? Why play bishop at all? Maybe f6. Let's see. Now h4. Who is this Alexander Stamenkovich? Just some guy? The name is very familiar to me. I think I played him, or he lived in the United States or something. Yeah, I mean, we really want to like take this out and then play d6 and get our bishop out this diagonal. This bishop a6 is kind of like a backup plan, like I was saying. Because here, I don't love this. You know, again, the backwardness here like, seems to favor white. I would rather we get like f6 and then we get to like get free and white does nothing, and then we just start playing like this and get our bishop out this diagonal and everything's okay. You know, we're fine. I'd much rather that. Alright, let's turn off the engine. What happened here? Knight d5. Yeah, I mean, it just has nothing to do with the other factors in your position. You're just like, hey, that looks like a good square. But it's not really connected to anything else. It doesn't help with getting this bishop out, and it just sort of sits there. So, alright, this is bad. Castles, d6, and this is ugly. So, I mean, your problem is that you're lost if you don't have a bishop. But you really are supposed to be playing for f6 and trading his pawn off. And then playing d6 and praying to whatever greater being that you believe in that you'll live. You know, that your bishop will get out, like, eventually. Because otherwise you're like just Fritz 6 or something. This is like frying pan into the fire, possibly. But I admit your bishop is better than it was. You know, but is the cure worse than disease? You got to ask yourself when you play d6. I once lost to Miles in a rapid game, like in banter chess, with something like this. It was awful. I never want to have that happen again. You know, so I'm definitely going to take my chances with like f6. This is a terrible structure. You know, it's like a Nimzo Indian nightmare. Takes, knight e4 here. I'm not sure that bishop's even worth preserving, honestly. But you've got to be careful, like e5, bonk, 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 and you know, you're dead on the e file. But I don't think your bishop's even worth saving, probably. Maybe you should just castle and again pray to higher beings or something like that. I don't know if you have time for bishop e7. Alright, it's a try. Maybe you're right. If you could kick his knight off of e4, maybe your bishop can be worth saving. He plays c4. Creative move. Obviously he's backward here, but your knight, you know, I wouldn't want to play c4, but it might work out. You know, he's just judging that you don't really have any pressure on d3, and he's fixing your pawns. This looks good here. Pawn's just going, but you've got knight e4. Yeah, I mean, it seems strange that he's letting this happen. And you've got e5, and your bishop's out. I mean, what's his plan? Like, knight here, knight here? He's going to win your pawn? That's what he did. Well, first of all, if you get opposite colored bishops, you might not be lost. Or it might not be that easy. So the problem would be, like, he's going to take it with his bishop. What about the d file? You know, he has to come here. can you get a rook to the d file fast enough to do anything? Yeah, I mean, of course white's still better. It looks like this pawn might just fall. It's a Nimzo. But I guess bishop e6. Computer gave that a dubious. It said f5 was best. I mean, f5 looks desperate, but you're threatening f4. But in retrospect, you know, the computer points it out. If he has to play like f3, that's going to change the dynamics a lot. Probably you like castle, and you can isolate this pawn on e4, and things are not so clear anymore, you know. You're still worse, but I mean, yeah, f5's pretty dynamic. Queen c2 here. Yeah, I mean, you need to think about how to get your white square bishop in the game. That's the entire point. He's stopping f5 now. So castle, threatening f5, I guess. Your other option is to go Botvinnik. You know, you have to stick a rook on d4. If you studied Botvinnik's games, you'd know the famous game where he did this, like rook d4. It's probably necessary, you know. I mean, this is a real practical. This is like a real practical try. Botvinnik literally did this in almost the exact same position, and it went on to win the game against this guy. It was I don't remember, a Sicilian or something, but I mean seriously, it's a good practical try. After bishop takes, pawn takes, you know, there's still chances. In Botvinnik's case, like, the guy let him get this overwhelming kingside attack with the two bishops somehow. You know, objectively, white's winning. But I mean, this is an excellent example of practical defense. So, no substitute for studying the classics. Botvinnik was lost, but he still beat the guy. So the question is here, can you defend like with manual methods? I hate bishop d6. Why can't you play f6? You still have the exchange sack down the line at some point. But I don't like putting the bishop on d6. You're actually blocking your own rook idea. You're worried about f4? I think that's a big mistake. There's no way you should be worried about white playing f4. If he plays f4, he detonates the structure. I mean, it's really not in his best interest. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised. I mean, I thought he would play like something solid like f3, b3, try to play queen f2 and like triple up. You know, he should probably like try to triple up on this. Honestly. Is there some way you can stop that? How do you stop this plan of that? You know, b3, f3, queen f2, and you lose the pawn on c5. It looks almost impossible to stop it, right? I mean, I don't see how you're going to stop it. You can do a5, a4 and try to get counterplay, but it's very, very slow. It takes a long time. And you have to castle. There's no way you should be worried about him playing f4 here. I mean, it might be good as well, but I don't think that's the plan. I'm a little surprised he did this, because he's weakening his white squares a little bit. You know, so he changed plans, allowing you to trade off here, take, and I mean, I guess he's still better, right? But you're sort of half alive now. Like your bishop is alive. It's like science museum or something. It's alive. Now f6. He's very active. But you see his style. You know, he likes playing actively. Could you play f5, by the way, at some point? Screw the pawn on e5. You know, maybe you have this. Can you play f5 here? The worst, I'm not worried about losing this pawn, whatever, you know. You've got tactics on this diagonal. He probably has to play like f3. What's going on here? Peter thinks he can take it. Queen e5, queen e5. Queen e5. Okay. This pawn is going to be a problem. Yeah, you're in trouble now. Anyway. His plan wasn't bad. It was sort of surprising, though. I don't like his bishop d6 move. Maybe you can try just sacking a pawn. But I still think f6. Alright, anyway guys, I gotta go soon, so we're gonna go through this. Bishop d6, a3 castle here, take. You're in trouble. You gotta try to stay active. Yeah, this looks very awkward. Just kind of a torturous position. Now trading the dark square bishop, this is ironic. You're not unhappy about that exchange, honestly. He's trading off your bishop pair, but it is your bad bishop. I guess you have two bad bishops, theoretically. But this one's worse than the other one. Yeah. He let you get away with murder. I mean, you're still alive. Queen b6, rook b8, pressure on b4. That's the problem with his plan, ultimately. If you have that structure a2, b3, c4, f3, e4, there's nothing black can do except for a5, a4. But now he's got to worry about this counterattack against b4. So it's a nuisance, you know. How does he take on there without losing that? He's able to like get his pieces active, and a6 is bad. You don't really want that pawn on a white square. I mean, even h6 might be a mistake. It looks harmless, but I don't know what to suggest. Maybe you should actually play g6. I don't know. Put your king on g7. It weakens your dark squares. Yeah, this is tough. He still couldn't make progress. Ultimately, he ended up playing g6 anyway. Wow. Oof. Yeah, I mean, the guy is really good tactically. I mean, I'm sure he's good at everything, but especially from what I've seen, kind of attacking play. Yeah, this is over. Anyway, man, interesting game. A lot to think about. I gotta go. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks, Move11, for sharing the game. I know that's like one of the first times you played this variation, so I think it's very hard to get the hang of it. Friday, Mr. Coffee, thanks for being with us. Friday, we're gonna do some blitz tomorrow morning. It's been a long day. I will see all of you then. Thanks from the Panda and myself. Thanks for submitting the games. We will see you tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. CEST. Again, thanks to everybody for the kind subscriptions. In the morning, I will be back better than ever. Bye-bye.